and the train is leaving the station. Thank you, LLwA, for letting everybody know that the show is starting. And man, we got a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Kip Litzy from Kicker. And we've had him on the show about 2.5 years ago, give or take. And tonight is going to be awesome. If you know who Kip is, you're going to love it. You really are. And without further ado, we got to kick off the intro. And, you know, the show, man, we could talk all day, but, you know, it's just...
Keep the show to about 90 minutes.
Okay, 90 minutes, that's it? Sounds good, Kip. I'll see you guys in 3 minutes after this intro.
Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. I like to keep the show to about 90 minutes. Kippo-licious. Be sure you get that schmedium every Tuesday night. Full tilt boogie. Kippo-licious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium. Twisted Tea. Kippopotamus. Cold beverage. Schmedium. Midler. Out in BFE. Out in BFE. At the end of the day. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday.
Thank you, LLwA.
Full tilt boogie. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. I like to keep the show to about 90 minutes. Kippo-licious. Be sure you get that schmedium every Tuesday night. Full tilt boogie. Kippo-licious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium. Twisted Tea.
Kip Litzy. We know he's got the Twisted Tea, and I forgot to even bring him in here. But man, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and do not forget to enter the Kicker giveaway at kicker.com/umweekly. And without further ado, Kip Litzy, everyone. He's here.
Is this what a camera looks like?
I know
haven't
it's
seen one in a while. What's it?
Yeah, you know, you don't even have to look at yourself anymore. Otherwise, yes.
Well, you know,
for
when
being
you got
here,
a face
man.
built for radio, you don't want to look at it too much. That's all I've got to say. So,
I've heard that, and Ernie, man, he's got the face and the voice for radio, and he should do it too, and you got the voice as well. You got to have a little bit of both, but nowadays all these podcasts are video and audio, and I think you cut the bill, Kip. I think you do.
I appreciate that. I mean, I can't outrun the gray. I mean, if you're blessed and fortunate, you'll get to this point where you get a little bit of this in your hair, and then you'll lose a little bit of it up top. But that's a badge of honor.
Hey, my sister went gray early. My dad went gray pretty early. It's going to happen. But, I think that's what the cool kids do now. It's like they make their hair gray. I don't know. Hey, it's okay. It's a little bit of wisdom. I think that's really what it is.
Well, something I just learned here recently, you might get a kick out of this. Lots of people, young people, will take Kool-Aid and they'll dye their hair with, orange, blue, whatever happens to be their flavor of the week. Yeah. And what I recently found out is if you take any flavor of Kool-Aid and mix it with any other flavor of Kool-Aid, you get gray. So you take any packet of Kool-Aid you want, mix it with another packet, and it just comes out this gray blobby mess. So this is Kool-Aid right here if you mix two packs together.
You know what? Don't tell too many people that. You could patent that. You could patent that.
I just found out about it recently, but it's like, are you telling me the truth? I'm like, yeah, take any two colors of packs of Kool-Aid you want and mix them, and it turns to gray.
It's definitely a good way to look at it. It's definitely a good way to look at it.
It's a way to look at it.
That's it. And Stuart, no, this is not the wasted information guy, but we did have Aaron on before, and that was awesome. His history with Kicker. We had John on here last time, John Myers. Now we got you, and you've been here for forever. It almost seems like 25 plus years at Kicker.
Well, let me do the math real quick. Because of when I joined the company in the fall, and we actually celebrate your years of employment with the company every July. So I'm actually behind the clock. So if I do the math, I'm actually in year 28.
28. Holy moly. That's almost as old as me. That's crazy, Kim. And obviously you were into car audio a little bit before that as well. Obviously you didn't walk into Kicker having no idea what a Kicker even is. How did you get into car audio then? If that was 28 years ago, when did you get started in that, just in general?
Well, I'll bore you all night long with whatever you want to talk about. And I will say this is a little bit different. For anyone who's, obviously familiar with me, usually, being the engineer running the show, I get the luxury tonight. If I'm at home, I am relaxed. I have an iced coffee and a couple ice waters here, and I even got a bag of Doritos. If I have to mute my mic, I make a munch on something. But it is a little refreshing to be here, and someone else is in charge of making the show run smoothly. I'm just here for the ride.
Hey, this is the one-man band, like the monkey going down the street with the big bass and the hi-hats and the snare all at once. That's what this show is. No, thank you for a good visual image right there.
It's a great visual image. I mean, I'll share. I mean, I'm 57. I'll be 58 years old this year. So don't let the gray fool you. I'm actually old. But I got into car audio like most people in my day. It started off, I was always electrically and mechanically inclined. And also that crosses over into software. I mean, I went to college for computer programming and business management. But I've always been just... It didn't matter if it was AC or DC. I was just always into creating things and putting things together, and I just got attracted to it at a very young age. And so, I can go back as far as before I got into car audio. I made mixtapes. I mean, I had a dual cassette with another dual cassette and an equalizer in between, and you listen to the radio. And, okay, here the song's coming, and you try to catch it before the DJ talks all over it and make. So I was into audio before there was car audio, but. I want to share, before I got into car audio, this is why I was still in junior high school. And I think this story's hilarious, so I want to share this. And of course, I'm from a much norther climate. I grew up in Ohio, and we actually get this thing called winter there with lots of snow and cold temperatures. And
Stillwater doesn't get anything below 40 degrees or hurts. So
no, there's nothing here that hurts me as far as winter. It's actually mild compared to what I grew up with, but. So I'm used to, back when we're going to school, you go down to the bus stop. We're wearing big parka type coats with big hoods. I mean, you're bundled up because it's cold. I mean, it's really cold. And back in my day, everyone, it was boombox wars on the bus to school. So you get on the bus, there'd be 4, 5, 6, 8 guys who had a boombox, and it was always a quest. Whoever had the latest and greatest big boombox with fresh batteries, and whoever blasted the loudest on the school bus won that day, and then they got to play their choice of music the whole trip to school. So, Kip being Kip, I got this ingenious idea. At the time, I was actually living with my my granny. That's what I call my dad's mom. She's passed now, but my granny, I lived with her for all my teen years, and she worked at a store in Ohio called Rinks. And I don't expect anybody to know what that store is, but it was like they had hardware and automotive and a little bit of health and beauty. It wasn't really like a super Walmart, but if you took all of the cold and a lot of the food stuff out, it was kind of like a super Walmart. They had a home and beauty and a garden section and all that stuff. But they sold a brand at this store called Sparkomatic. And I'm sure anyone here who is familiar with Sparkomatic, the orange surround cone drivers, and this is back in the days, the 40-watt push-button power boosters and radios that had the knob on both sides,
Power boosters. I had someone talk to me about, oh yeah, they had one of those power booster things. I'm like, that's pretty old technology right there.
Kyle, we do get everything here in Oklahoma, including earthquakes. That is true. I will give you that one. So I wanted to win the boombox wars on the bus, and so I had a paper route. I'd saved up some money, and so I went down to Rinks with my granny, and of course I got her employee discount, which I think back then was like 15 or 20%, whatever it was. Yeah. And I bought a pair of 6.5-inch Sparkomatic car speakers, door speakers, or wherever. They were just 6.5s, and a Sparkomatic 40-watt push-button power booster, and a whole bunch of 6-volt lantern batteries. And so what I did is I took apart my boombox that I had, and if I remember at the time, I think it was a Panasonic. Took the boombox apart, carved out all the plastic ribs that were in the way and everything I could, and I mounted these two gigantuan, by standards of what was in the boombox, these 6.5-inch automotive speakers into my boombox. And I brought the signal out, speaker level out, and I took speaker back into the speaker. So basically it was a high level out, back into the speakers.
Yeah.
And I wired it up to this 40-watt power booster. And then, of course, you got to have a power supply for this. And so I took 2 6-volt lantern batteries and wired them in series for 12 volts. And that was my power supply for the Sparkomatic 40-watt booster. And so I built all this into my winter coat. So this is a big, heavy winter coat with the big, deep pockets. So in one pocket on one side, I had the 40-watt Sparkomatic power booster. And then I had the power cables run through the back of the coat into the other pocket, which held the 2 6-volt lantern batteries. And then I had an umbilical cord that came out of the coat, out of the power booster, then up to the boombox. I could carry it and do whatever. And so
that's crazy.
I get on the bus, and of course I've already played around with this thing. I know what it's going to do, and let me tell you, it was pretty crazy for a boombox. So I get on the bus, and of course everybody's doing their thing, and they're playing boombox wars. And of course, it gets to my turn. I turn my boombox on. It's playing, and everyone, kids being kids. And as it's playing, I just suddenly reach down in my pocket and I push that button on that power booster, and it just immediately wah! I mean, it was just blaring loud coming out of these Sparkomatic speakers. I'm not going to say it was the best sound quality, and the batteries didn't last very long. I'll tell you that much. But for about 11 minutes, I was on top of the world.
That sounds like a lot of my builds, you only get a couple minutes out of them, then you're dead. That's crazy. And especially even back then, because it's not like how things are today. You really did have to do it yourself. And I'm not even going to ask if you put a balancer on those 2 batteries in series. We're not going to go there,
No. The only thing balancing was how much duct tape I put around to hold them together in my pocket. That was the only balancing that happened at that point.
It'll work. That's crazy, though, and I don't have a story of building my own boombox, but man, do I love boomboxes in general. That's what got me into this stuff. So
I don't want to ignore the comment at the bottom, because obviously he threw some change at you there, but that Solo X, I was involved with the development team on developing that driver. And of course, I tell people, I got some back here that I'll show you that's not kicker stuff if we get to that. I'm a car audio guy. There's not a brand that you can tell me about from the 80s or 90s that I haven't sold or owned or messed with. And so I'm just an audio guy. I love everything. I'm blessed that I get to work for Kicker and do what I do for Kicker. And in a million years, I would have never thought that I would end up at a company like Kicker. It wasn't in my roadmap. I didn't plan for it. But I will say it's a blessing from God that I ended up working for the company I work for and for the people I work for, because they're salt of the earth. That's what I will say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And,
I envy you, sir.
And the thing is, I've been direct with the company for 28 years, but I've known Steve Irby for probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but I've known Steve for 33 or 34 years, because before I worked directly for the company, I worked for a rep firm that interfaced with Kicker. And then prior to that, I worked at a retail store that sold Kicker. So I've known a lot of the people at Kicker for, some of them go back probably 35 years that I've known someone from Kicker. And Steve has a very unique way of approaching design and doing things. And it's not just all about computers and graphs and charts. It's also his experience from what he's learned and being in the audio, not just car audio, but the audio industry in general for so long that, I've actually seen Steve say, I want to change this. I want to EQ this differently, or let's try a little softer suspension, or let's try a little harder suspension. Let's change the durometer, the surround. And I've seen them go, well, Steve, that's not going to measure really well. Or Steve, that's not going to do this very well. Steve goes, I don't listen to that with my eyeballs. I want to hear it. Yeah. And Steve will make design decisions on products based upon how they sound, not necessarily how they graph. And fortunately for Kicker, there's a lot of companies that still don't understand that, because the graph does not tell you how good something sounds. It's a visual tool to help you find really, really anomalous problems. But if you think you can look at a graph and then verbally tell someone that's going to sound fantastic, I'm here to tell you you're fooling yourself, because I've fooled myself many a time with Steve.
No, and that's the thing where, SQ guys, I know one class is just to have the flattest 20 to 20. And does that sound good? No. Or, even with microphone settings for some of the stuff that I do, and it's like looking up, other people's EQ curves of how they have them, but their voice is different, and it's like, I might need it more here and there. And you really got to listen to it, and then you can tweak things, obviously. And, Steve knows a thing or two about just sound, speakers. He was into just pianos and band stuff.
Yes.
And
pro sound.
Right.
Band equipment. So back when Steve was, car audio in Steve's day was a toy. It was underdash mount 4-track or 8-track players. You were lucky to have power boost. Sometimes, I'm trying to remember when the first power booster came out, but there was a time when there weren't even power boosters. It was just the 3 or 4 watts of power that was out of the common ground radio that was there. It wasn't big stuff, and so it didn't appeal to Steve, because pro sound, stuff for bands or live sound reinforcement, that's big power, separate external crossovers, lots of multiple speakers, and even to this day, Steve's into all that.
Nuts. I know. I seen a video of him not that long ago playing the piano at some concert. I was like, go Steve, look at that. Look at that.
I know I'm going to come back to your question, I promise, but it's just some comments keep popping up and I want to address these. So this one here, I'll tell you why this one caught my attention, Matthew, and I brought it up. So I want to understand that everything I will say is not to disparage any company. I simply speak in truth and fact. So PPI, Precision Power Incorporated, today is not the company that it was back in the 80s. It's not the same company. So back when the company first started, Precision Power, they were actually a build house, and they made amplifiers for other companies underneath their name. And then PPI figured out that they wanted to start manufacturing their own amplifiers underneath their own name. So then they did that in parallel for a while. They still made amps for other people, because it's how they paid the electric bill, kept the lights on. And then they came out with their own PPI line of stuff. And then as that grew and grew and grew, they finally turned the valve off and they quit making products for other companies. And so there was a very short period of time for me at retail that I sold Pyramid. It was one of, I call it my low end lines I carried. I sold some Pyramid products. But and this would have been in it would have been between I think 90 and 92 if I had to guess. But Pyramid had a line of amplifiers called the Pyramid Pro. And it was when they came out, it was a brand new line of amps, and they were reasonably priced. And so we ordered some at the store, and hooked them up in some cars, and we were blown away. Like, I can't believe how good this amplifier sounds and works. And it's a pyramid. Are you kidding me? Right. And so, like all installers and salesmen do at stores, the next thing we do is take the thing, turn it upside down, take the back off, and look inside.
Yeah. Got to see the guts.
It was a PPI circuit board. It was basically a PPI amplifier that was being tucked into a Pyramid Pro shell. And it was an absolute bargain because I could sell you the PPI or I could sell you the Pyramid Pro, and it was the exact same amplifier for the comparable sizes. And so we sold a ton of these Pyramid Pros because guys who either didn't have the money or didn't really care if they had the name brand, we could sell them a Pyramid Pro. We felt really good about it because I know the Pyramid name is junk because most of the stuff they made was junk, but these were actually a fantastic amplifier.
You know what? That reminds me the same story. We're not talking smack on brands, but like Boss. I have this Boss amplifier that is not your normal Boss amplifier, and same kind of story.
It may be one of those oddities.
Yep, it was just I forget his name. I should know it off the top of my head, but he had his finger on a lot of amplifiers, and that was one of them. And it definitely sticks out from the other ones, because you think the name, you're like, no, that's cheaper, low end quality stuff, and that's fine.
Exactly. So we're selling these amplifiers. I mean, after we got used to it, it was a no-brainer. Guy come in and he had so much budget and he won some, okay, well let's sell you a 4 8-inch bandpass box, or let's get you to a pair of 12s, and we're going to use one of these amplifiers. It fits the budget and it works great, and we're going down the highway. And I remember the day it happened. We have a car in the back. We get it installed. And it was actually another guy working on it. I want to say it was Scott, but I can't remember. And he comes up and goes, "Hey, can you come take a listen to this?" Sure. So we go back there and sit in the car and listen to it. And we're like, I know what that subwoofer combination on that amplifier sounds like in a car just like this because we've sold hundreds of them. Right. And so it sounded horrible. It had no output. It wasn't controlled. It was just horrible. So what do? Take the amplifier, flip it upside down, take screws out, take cover off. And now there is an El Junco circuit board inside there with some horrible designed amplifier. So what happens?
So you can tell just by looking at it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, just take a look at it. Just look at it.
Would you look at that?
And it's even easier to spot when you're used to seeing like a double-sided circuit board on a good fiberglass circuit board versus a phenol brown single-sided trace with all the wire hoops on the one side because they haven't done a double-sided board. And that's what was in this amplifier. They had went from something that was like a Cadillac, and they had moved it down into, I don't even know if I'm fair calling it a Yugo, because a Yugo had more class than this amplifier did. And so we had this amp, and then of course we had a whole stock of them because we ordered these in like a dozen at a time. And we opened every single one of them up, and they were all the same. So that was the end of the Pyramid Pro days. We packed all back up, and we sent them back for credit, and we were done selling them because it was a junk amplifier.
Wow.
But it was a fun ride while I was there.
A lot. I feel like that happens a lot with just any company. It's not that they're selling out, but kind of, just to make things cheaper, a little bit more money on the top end, and, if you can get the same output, maybe not quality, and a lot of their consumers and maybe customers might not even notice, but you guys that have the trained ear can. And what's cool about Kicker is you guys make everything, at least for the amplifiers, from the ground up. I know at one point you guys had somebody help you and then you started making them yourselves. And that was, what was it, the Steve Irby one, or which one was it? I forget.
The SI, which was the original Kicker amplifier that started Kicker down the electronics path, that was actually, and I'm going to, the name's going to slip me here for a second, but it was, oh, doggone it. Don't get old, folks.
It's because you're live. It's not old. It happens. It's like half your brain works.
I'll think of it here in a minute. But yes, he's the guy that started, I'll think of it in a minute. But it was back in the day, it was a high-end amplifier company, and maybe someone here will chime in and they know, but they were kind of famous for they had some amplifiers that was actually the power supply and the amplifier were in two separate chassis, and they connected together with an umbilical cord.
Wow.
I'll think of the name here in a minute. But he was friends with them, and he came in and actually gave the engineers at the time who were starting our first amplifier project some pointers and things that led us down a path. And he helped us out for that first generation. And after that, we took off from there on our own path. But yeah, kicker amplifiers, they are our design. We're not going overseas to any build house and pulling an amplifier off the shelf and putting our name on it. Every single one is a discrete, bespoke design that starts right here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, over in the, I mean, you've been there, so I don't need to tell you about it, but it starts right over there in the labs, and it's our design. And you know, and I know we'll touch on this a little bit, because I know you said we've got people have some questions about the Warhorse, which I'll gladly answer what I can, but I'll go on the record right now that a full bridge versus a half bridge amplifier, full bridge is not a new technology. Full bridge has been around for a long time. Kicker has made full bridge amplifiers for 20 plus years. Full bridge versus half bridge is simply how you design the power supply in the output stage. And if you're doing a full bridge design, the only real drawback to it is, and I'm not even sure that this is even a great benefit anymore today, is if it's a full bridge design, you can't strap two amplifiers together to make one bigger amplifier. They have to be half bridge amplifiers to do strapping. Because basically a full bridge amplifier is already strapped.
I know. From my understanding, I'm not an amp guy entirely either. Like I be asking Joe and Bill questions from, you know, Kicker, but it's just like, it seems like the full bridge, you almost need less, not quality, but stronger parts, because that rail's being split in half rather than that full sweep of 80 to 80. It's going to do 40 to 40 in a way of just how that makes that sound wave. What it has to do with, it has to do where you're tapping the transformer. I mean, you're still doing a positive and negative rail swing on a half bridge. Yeah. You're
still doing a positive negative rail swing on a full bridge, but it has to do with where you're center tapping to come off the transformer and whether you are or aren't. So yeah, that's the thing I'll put out there is, and again, I'm not going to knock any brand. I don't want this to be a show about knocking brands, but there are some realities. There's a lot of full bridge amplifiers out there that come from Brazil. And I'm not saying those amplifiers don't make power. I've seen them on the test bench. They make power. They will do what they say. But from an honest evaluation standpoint, the realities for the Brazilian amp companies is their import and export tariffs on both parts and completed products is insane. So they have to build their amplifiers as inexpensively as possible to even sell them in Brazil to the people who live in Brazil, much less to export them to another country and sell them to people outside of that realm because of the added costs that come along with the ride. So what happens in a Brazilian design is typically, and they've gotten better with them, I mean, a lot of these, what they call smart, which is where they're trying to keep the amplifier from imploding on a low impedance load. And that's really what they're trying to do, because I've seen those amplifiers, you know, years ago on the test bench when we were looking at them, when we were evaluating everything we've come to market with, is they'll make power. You can put on a reactive load and it makes power, but don't put on a resistive test, because we literally had amplifiers under resistive test would go up in flames in less than half a second. As soon as they were met with a
and you know these guys are wiring down, and it's pretty much a resistive load at 40 hertz continuously. It's not much different, and they're just not built for that. Maybe now they're changing some things with some of their versions and making them more for bass heads, but you know, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's like I would rather spend the extra $1 for an amplifier that is, because just because they're Brazilian full bridge does not mean that they're very efficient. You know, that doesn't just dequalify it from being an inefficient half bridge design that may be a little bit less efficient compared to a full bridge, or just it's the parts. And I'm going to sleep at night better knowing that if I start my amp up, it's not going to just blow up because the capacitor just discharged or something weird. There's a lot more steps involved with just how you guys do stuff, and any quality amplifier.
Right, and that's the thing is, so I want to, if there's anything that I could say, and we'll get into that later whenever we get into it, is that full bridge does not equal Brazilian. Brazilian is just a way of building a full bridge amplifier the least expensive way possible. And the only drawback to that is they're using fewer parts. They're using parts with less tolerance in them. So they're running everything out at the ragged edge. So low impedance is going to cause them to go up and smoke pretty good. Radical changes in impedance can freak them out and do things to them. It's just they don't have any additional headroom built into them. When you look at any of our Class D monoblock amplifiers, or full bridge, have been for years, but if we look at specifically the Warhorse is a full bridge amplifier design, but it is I don't even want to use the word overbuilt. I would just want to say a full bridge amplifier built the kicker way, which is Steve Irby has a standard, and it's got to meet his standard, or it's not going to carry that kicker name on it. A Taramps 3K Smart won't fit our build. Put a kicker name patch on it.
No. And you know, some people say I'm a big dummy for wiring down and stuff, but if I'm going to do it on any equipment, it's going to be on a kicker equipment type amplifier, just because you guys got a lot of protection stuff that's built in there too. It's not idiot proof, but it's dummy proof. You know, there is a difference.
You know, I know John talked about it, because I watched the show that he was on. It was, what, that 2 weeks ago, or did you have John
2 weeks
on?
to a month, give or take, you know, something like that. Yeah.
You know, we obviously sell products to specialty stores, independent dealers, and we sell them to mass merchants. So that means a Walmart, that means a Best Buy. And there's a lot of Walmart and Best Buy. That's it, Zapco. Thank you, CB Dagger. That is it, Zapco.
I've heard of that brand.
Thank you. And the
thank you.
doggone it, I'll think of the guy's name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Robert Zeff. There it is. Robert Zeff, with a Z, was the guy who started Zapco. And Robert Zeff actually came over and worked with our engineers on the original SI amplifiers. And if you, I'm gonna grab it. Hold on.
He's gonna get it. We are in Kicker Kip's studio here. He's got everything ready.
If you'll give me some leeway tonight, I got goodies.
Yes. We got 90 minutes or so.
Perfect. We got 90 minutes. Yes. So I'm sure this looks familiar to some people out there. This is one of the plug-in modules that worked in the original series of amplifiers that use plug-in modules. That have been SISS, CR, ZX, DX. Probably remembering some of them. The plastic hood changed on the models. Like if you look at the original one from an SI, it's not a black hood like this. It's kind of a gray. But the electronics are the same. But the cool part about these modules, and of course you have to understand, back when these amplifiers came out, this was late 80s? Wow. Mid 80s, 86, I think.
That's crazy. So that's pretty much when the woofers were coming out too, give or take. You
86,
know,
88, I think it was mid to late 80s when the SI amps came out. But what made these unique is that inside of all amplifiers, obviously, there is a DC to DC power supply. So you're taking the 12-volt DC that's in the car, and you're converting it into whatever voltage rails you want for the amplifier. So it's 35-volt rails, 50-volt rails, whatever it is, it's a power supply. But when you go through that power supply, you get isolation from the car. It eliminates noise that you can get from the car for grounding or induced noise, and it's a very clean power supply. So starting in the original SI amplifiers, along with the power supply rails that were provided for the amplifier itself, there was also a plus and minus 15-volt rail for all of the preamp electronics. Ooh. So when you plugged in one of these crossover modules back in the day, it actually had a plus and minus 15-volt power supply to power this. So if you looked at all the other external crossovers that were available at the time, they ran off of strictly a 12-volt DC power supply, which you cut that in half, that's your plus 6, minus 6, so that's your rails. And that determines how much preamp voltage it can swing safely and keep it clean. Okay. These, right from the very start, worked off of a plus and minus 15-volt rail inside the amplifier. And so when it came to processing, besides being real simple, because you just plugged them into the amplifiers and used the chip, the programmable chips like audio control does too, to set the crossover points, is they basically were running on an ultra clean power supply that you got for quote unquote free because it came off of the amplifier's power supply. So that's what was really unique about these, and why they were so cool in the day, is because you could take any amplifier that was using an external crossover and swap that out into a kicker amplifier with one of these modules plugged in. So you still had your crossover and you went to a kicker amplifier, but you immediately were getting a better preamp section and a better crossover and better drive voltage control out of it, just because now your power supply running your crossover wasn't plus 12 volts, it was plus or minus 15. So this was actually, in the day, this was huge.
Yeah. So when you're saying like the plus or minus swing on the, that's pre-out voltage or just voltage of the amplifier's like sine wave pretty much capabilities thing? Well,
anything you build, I don't care if it's preamp voltage or if it's amplifier voltage. If you're looking at a sine wave, there's plus and minus rails. If you take a head unit with RCA outputs, it's got something in there that's a plus and minus rail, so it can swing your signal back and forth. So your rails, so if you take a typical radio in a car, unless they put a DC to DC power supply in that radio, you can only swing about plus and minus 6 volts because you only have 12 volts in the car. So cut it in
Okay, I
half.
get what you're saying. Wow. Yeah.
You can only swing plus 6 and swing minus 6 for a total of 12 volt. And it's DC, so that's all you've got. So if you take that 12 volt DC though and you put it into a switching power supply, or what's called a DC to DC converter, we just call them power supplies in the car world.
Yeah. Okay, so I get what you're saying now.
What voltage you can create whatever voltage you want. And so back in the day with those modules, we incorporated our kicker. I mean, at that time, I was actually at retail. I loved selling kicker amplifiers. I remember when the original SI amps came out, they were fantastic amplifiers. I had no problem selling them. And I literally would take systems that a guy would have. It didn't matter the brand of amp. That back in the day, everybody used acoustic crossovers. Acoustic was the king of external crossovers. The XM2, the XM3, if you were into the high-end stuff, the XM5 and the XM7. But everybody I know of used acoustic for crossovers, unless you're using pyramids. So, but we could take a system out that had one of those crossovers in an amp, and you replace it with a kicker amp. You were not just getting a better amplifier, but the preamp section and the crossover section was so much better because it was actually a well-built crossover, but it was using that plus and minus 15 volt rail that was coming right off the amplifier's power supply. So the amplifier was making a preamp plus and minus voltage rail to run all the preamp electronics, including the plug-in module, and then it was making whatever rails it also needed for the amplifier itself.
That's crazy.
Which is which might be 25 or 35, whatever.
And from what I understand, a better preamp voltage, or just being able to set your gain lower, better. Is that more helping with signal to noise or just like lower noise floor kind of deal?
Signal to noise, because when you go through a DC to DC power supply, you're filtering out any of the ripple or the noise or the induced noise, the alternator want, things that can come along for the ride. Back in the day, we had to deal with spark suppression noise and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody remembers back like some of the late 70s to mid 80s Broncos. If you put a new radio in a Bronco back then, you would actually, when you were playing the cassette, you would actually hear it.
Really?
And at first, no one. It was like, "What is this? Why?" And so, what it was, you were putting in a cassette player that had wider frequency response and a better tape head on it. And right above the radio, there was a power wire that was in the factory harness that ran right above the radio. So it kind of went around it like this. 2 ways to fix it in that Bronco. Put it back in the crappy, 3 if you count that one. Put back in the crappy radio. Disconnect that wire, cut it, extend it, and drop it back away from the radio so it wasn't going around the top of the radio.
Right.
And the other way, which is kind of, I've done quite a few of these too, it's called mu metal, which was copper and aluminum, if I remember right. It was like a sheet of conductive metal, and basically what you did is you wrapped the head unit, built a Faraday cage around it, you soldered a ground wire onto that and took that wire to ground, and that mu metal that you wrapped around it, any of that noise that was radiating into the radio, that mu metal picked it up and shunted it to ground before it got into the tape head.
I've heard of those Faraday cages where it keeps out any kind of frequencies, like even like radio frequencies. It's just, that makes sense. So you're telling me those guys, even nowadays, that got like alternator wine, they can just get a lot of copper, make a Faraday cage around their head unit, and then they're good, right?
Well, not with alternator wine. This was induced noise that was actually there on that main power line that was running right above the radio.
Right.
And it was spark noise. It was from the ignition system, not the alternator. This was ignition noise. And
but same concept, wasted information getting to your subs and amplifiers, and same
but the
thing.
But the radio was so bad you didn't hear it. It wasn't even something that you heard. But as soon as you put a better radio in the dash, it was like, what's that? I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like,
hear it now. Yeah.
What is this? There's always the first time for everybody when you're faced with a problem, you got to sit there and go, what is this? And how do I fix it?
Yeah. Now that's crazy. Just, with different problems, even now today, we have even different problems, with just how technological advanced the head units are getting. We don't even need to replace them. But now with the kicker tech, all the key technology is really trying to fit it in so you guys can still amplify your setups, put bass in them like how we do, and without taking the whole head unit out. It's crazy. Before we wanted to get the head unit out, now we would just want to keep it in there. It's nicer.
Hey Larry, just be careful, because I'm here to tell you, it's the Pyramid Pro. It was a white chassis, had the Pyramid Pro on it, but You won't know if it's got the PPI board in it or the crappy board in it until you open it up and take a look.
That's it. I know we might as well get to some of these questions. I know we had a few super chats and whatnot. Might as well go through them here.
Sure.
El Fuego, thank you for starting us off. And this is one of the guys that wanted you on as well. And I know you know El Fuego. He's on every YouTube car audio channel out there, and he's been around.
You know, El Fuego, not just to you, but to everyone out there, I am blessed and honored to be here tonight with Andy. And I'm not the engineer of this. He's the engineer. I'm just along for the ride, so I don't even worry about making too many mistakes. If I make a mistake, it's all on him anyway. Yep. So I feel good about that. But man, it's I lurk around and I watch a lot of the comments. Even if I don't chime in on some of this stuff, I'm usually in the background lurking around. So it's good to be on tonight. I was actually a little worried, to be honest with you. It's been so long since I've been in front of a camera doing this. I was a little concerned, but so far so good.
Yeah, we got this, and I appreciate you always, hanging out in the comment section on my streams and whatnot, and just being around and giving us your 2 cents, and just your experience in car audio. And well, you're with Kicker, so it's a no-brainer to have you on, and I appreciate your time tonight, man. I really do. I really do.
I appreciate it too, Andy. And here's the thing, and I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm a blessed man that I do enjoy a lot of different things. I mean, it's not just car audio that I enjoy. I enjoy home audio. I'm a video guy. I'm unfortunately the guy that I can look at a $500 TV and then I can look at a $5,000 TV and I can talk about scan lines and contrast ratio. And I may not be able to afford the $5,000 TV, but I can appreciate the $5,000 TV and I know why it's $5,000. And so I do appreciate all that. But the one thing that I think is a pleasure and a responsibility is I don't know everything. I've made a ton of mistakes in my career, and that's when I learned things, is when I either made mistakes or I was presented with a problem I've never had to experience before, like the Bronco with the power wire. I mean, and so when you learn those things, and don't ask me why, because I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can tell you things that happened 35 years ago. But I think it's a pleasure and it's a responsibility that if I can share that stuff with a new generation of people, and if they get a kick out of the story and it brings a smile to their face, that's great. If it gives them a little bit of information that if they ever come across that problem, they at least go, hey, I remember. And it may even give them some insight into a new problem they get to face. It's like, okay, this kind of sounds like this. So if I got anywhere to start and start checking boxes so I can try to figure this out, because the difference between, a lot of people will say the difference between a good installer and a great installer is, how you can troubleshoot. Because it's not if you're going to have a problem, it's when you're going to have a problem. And being able to troubleshoot a system out and have a pretty broad knowledge of, okay, this is how basic electrical works, this is how an amplifier works, this is how preamp works, this is how interconnectivity is, this is how noise works, it gives you a place to go and troubleshoot a system. I mean, with just a simple voltmeter or even a speaker with a pair of pigtails on it, you can go out to a car and in less than 60 seconds, you can determine is the problem before the amplifier or after. And that there gives you a lot of, do I keep looking this way or do I start looking this way? And it just helps you troubleshoot. So
it really does. And I always find myself obviously using a multimeter, but I even have a boom box, our boom boxes, it has an amplifier, head unit, RCAs and everything. So I can test different stuff to see maybe it is your amplifier, it's not,
right.
It's just not the output. The RCAs are coming in. It's not, or just what have you. And the experience of learning that stuff. I love troubleshooting. It's my favorite. I really do. I love it.
Yeah, these are my two favorites, Rockwood and Kenford.
Yes. The flea market 500 specials.
Wait a minute.
I can't.
Since Roy Clark started on y'all.
I'm not old enough to know this joke, but I'm sure you do. Love you, Ashy. Appreciate you tuning in, man.
BR 549. And that's all I got to say.
We got Mr. Hi-Fi Vega hanging out with us. What's going on, Vega? I know Derek's tuned in too. He's at his daughter's recital. I'm sure he'll be watching the rewatch. Have you? Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight, man. No, you're good, Ashy. You're good. we're here to have fun, you know, and the Kipisms. I'm surprised we haven't seen too many. I know Kip's known for those, man. And speaking of which, the Kip and Dave show, that's how I first found you, and like the boom boxes and going to CES and doing all that stuff. What's Dave up to these days?
Dave is moved over to international sales, and he is doing, I forget what part of the world. I think he takes care of Europe, UK, I think, and maybe Asia. Maybe.
They got kickers over there?
Oh, yeah, we're distributed in, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think it's like 82, 78, 80. It's in the 70s to 80s as far as countries that we're distributed in worldwide.
Phew. That's crazy. I know South Asia, South Africa, because they got their own kicker pages, you know. It's crazy.
Basshead 30, Linear Power. Cool story about Linear Power. The guy who was basically the head tech, and he worked a lot with engineering with Linear Power, he actually left Linear Power back in, I want to say 80, 81. Don't hold me to it. It was early 80s, but his name was Dan Job, and he's unfortunately passed. But Dan left Linear Power and came to work for Kicker, and was the head of technical services and tech training for years. And Dan was a wealth of information, and that's why probably in the original days when Kicker started doing show vehicles, they were all Linear Power amplifiers. And back in the day, yes, Linear Power made a fantastic amplifier.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of them from back in the day too. And there's a lot of amplifier brands, or just brands in general, that just used to be around, and they were big dogs, and they're not. And it's crazy to see Kicker still around, and they were, you know, there since pretty much day one of car audio.
Actually, that would have been Clarion. Clarion bought Macintosh car.
Macintosh, I know the Apple, you know, computer. Yeah, it's about it. Wrong one? Oh, okay.
I'm talking about it's so ugly, you got to be a mother to love it, home audio gear, but it's ultra high end, lots of big thick glass and aluminum. I mean, it's a...
You know what? I think I remember Derek Dino in one of those. It was like a very expensive amplifier, and as soon as you said plexiglass, yeah, Macintosh. Yes, that makes sense. You could see like the transformers were like all out of gold or something like that.
And there was a time when there was Macintosh car audio, and it was built by Macintosh, and it was really way overbuilt stuff. And then Clarion bought it out, and it wasn't the same Macintosh. I'm not saying it was bad gear; it just wasn't Macintosh as people know it. It's rigged. It's definitely rigged tonight.
Always.
I've got one name and a hat here. I'm just going to pick it and throw it at Andy, and he's going to put it on the screen.
Got you guys tonight. You know, that's how we do it. You know.
I'll put my whoever wants to win, I'll put my Venmo up. Just send me $25. It's all yours.
I mean, you know, we're not supposed to tell them that. I have that link in the description. Yeah. We're kidding. Appreciate you guys. Double E got a question for you. Kip, I went to buy Solo X in Thailand, and they said they were out of stock, and for $1,500 for a 12.
I am unfamiliar, I have to admit, with what the exchange rates are across the world in every country. And so I do know prices vary everywhere because of exchange rates and things like that. So I don't like talking price because I don't know exchange rates, and I would mislead someone if I told them. But the Solo X, I do know, is doing extremely well for us as a company. I've seen in the comments on shows, Andy's included, where people say, well, when's it going to be in stock? I don't see it. And a lot of times you guys are referencing Kicker. And this is always going to be the case with Kicker. Whatever product comes into our warehouses, plural, always gets sent to our dealers first before it is put into Kicker stock and sold at www.kicker.com. It's always been that way, and as far as I can tell, it's going to be that way for the foreseeable futures. We always take care of our dealers first because they're the ones that brought us to the dance. So when they're stocked, if it says out of stock at Kicker, you need to go check your local Kicker dealer or whoever's within driving range of you, or if you've got a preferred online dealer, however you like to shop. But it's very possible they have stock, even though Kicker is showing no stock, because we might get 10,000 pieces in and don't keep a single one of them. They're all out at dealers.
Right. It makes sense. It's almost like an overflow more than anything, you know?
Correct. Until we get to the point that our dealers are satisfied and we can keep them filled, we don't keep anything back to sell direct.
Well, I think half of them just want to know because they're sitting on those 50% off discount codes that you win from watching Kicking with Andy. So they're like, come on now. Does everybody got theirs so I can get mine half off, which is crazy.
Someone posted up here. I know the comment was up for a little bit. I may still have. I was trying to find some old stuff, and I've got stuff in boxes. It's hard to find, but yeah, I did own a BBE, and if I remember, I think it was called. I think the model number was 4012, but it was the half-din underdash Barkus Berry enhancer sonic maximizer, and like all audio products from that day, on some music it was like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever bought, and on other music it's like, why did I buy this?
Oh yeah,
I'll
the something booster. Yeah, I remember that comment now. Yep.
When the Epicenter first came out, when the Epicenter from Audio Control first came out, I had to have one. Just hearing about what it was and everything, I have to have one of these. And the closest dealer that I could find that had one in stock was up in Toledo, Ohio. So it was about an hour and 20-minute drive for me to go get one. And I went up and I bought an Audio Control Epicenter. I brought it back, and of course I remember laughing, and that's probably where I got some of my humor in manuals. Is I remember reading that first audio control manual, and it always had some little bit of humorous tidbits in it that I thought were pretty cool. And first time I hooked up the Epicenter, it's like everything's like, oh, all knobs to the right, and then you listen to stuff and goes, no, that's way too much. Turn them back some. And so it's
all the gravy.
All the gravy. And the Epicenter is one of those things. Without exaggeration, I probably bought, used, went, I don't need this, sold probably 4 to 6 Epicenters of my own, because I would buy one, I would use it, I would get burnout on it, or think, I don't want this, I don't like it, and then I'd get rid of it, and then I'd do, I want it. So then I'd go buy another one.
And that's the thing with personal preference. Now I kind of want like a DSP Epicenter to have more control over every channel, every speaker, every driver. But sometimes you just don't need it. We got a good question here from Jason, WW2000. This is regarding the Warhorse, and this was one of the questions that I had queued up. And I know Derek talked about it. A lot of people talked about it.
I know.
Why is there no clip light on the Warhorse? That's a big question.
You have the remote and the BassKnob there handy with you, Andy?
It's all in Cookie Monster. I have the box. That's all I got. But we can pull that up.
Sure. And this is a question. I've watched a lot of comments over the last few weeks. And first thing I want to address is, I know that we and other brands who do it often take a kick in the poodles and noodles for using a 3.5 millimeter cable and jack for the remote bass level control. Yeah. And here's what I'm going to say about that and why we do it that way. Back in the day, if anybody, I'm not going to get it right now, but if you remember back in the day when Kicker had the original remote bass level control, and it started off on the Kicker amplifiers called the RGX, which is remote gain control, that used a telephone or a 6-pin, I can't remember if it was a 6, might have been a 6-pin, but it was either an RJ11 or an RJ45 style cable that plugged into the controller and plugged into the amplifier. Back in that day when we did, thank you for bringing that up, Andy. Back in the day when we did that, we used what's called a voltage controlled amplifier circuit. So basically the audio, the signal, the audio itself never left the amplifier. It went into this little control circuit that was called a VCA, and that VCA was basically a remote controlled gain stage or volume knob. So that signal cable that went up to the front of the car, that knob, all you were doing was sending back different control voltages. And if you changed the pot, it changed the voltage that went back. And based upon that voltage that went back there, the circuit in the amplifier adjusted the volume. So the audio never left the amplifier. It was just the volume was controlled in the amplifier. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not passing any audio over an RJ11
through it.
Or an RJ45.
It's not going through it.
No
just
audio
what
whatsoever.
to do.
It's a control signal. That's it. Well, as all things do go, eventually the company that made the chip that allowed us to do that VCA circuit, they discontinued that chip. And the next viable option to do the exact same thing was horrendously expensive. And that's why we were able to do VCA controls back then, because there was this chip we were sourcing it had great signal to noise ratio, it worked on the voltage we want, it was inexpensive, and it gave us that feature without breaking the bank, so to speak.
Wow.
Well, when that changed, we had to go a different path for remote gain controls because we didn't want to raise the cost of the amplifiers. Mm-hmm. So that's when we went to the 3.5 millimeter. Now, anyone who's familiar with the 3.5 millimeter, there's 3 wires in there. There's a red and a white, if you're color coding them, which is your left and your right typically, and then there's your shield. And the shield goes around your signal cables. So you got your left and right positives, and then there's actually a shield that goes around those to shield that audio signal from noise. So what we do on our 3.5 millimeter controls is one of those wires is audio out. So it's actually the audio signal after it's been processed in your amplifier. So after you've set your subsonic filter, your crossover controls, your gain controls, after you've done all the processing on the end panel for the amplifier, we send the signal out that 3.5 millimeter up to the control jack. Then we send the signal back on the other wire. So it's just one wire in, one wire out, and then shield. So the shield prevents any noise.
So the signal is carried through there.
Correct. And that is why we use a 3.5 millimeter cable, because we're actually sending audio over that cable. And I can guarantee you just about anybody who uses a 3.5 millimeter style jack is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We use a different pin out. So I've had people ask, no, you can't take another company's control and plug into ours. There's no guarantee it's going to work because we have a specific pin out on ours that we use. But that's why we do a 3.5 millimeter cable and a 3.5 millimeter jack, is because that cable and that jack are designed to transport audio without inducing noise, and always has been, just like it's transporting audio up to my headset right here, right now.
Right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of deal, you know. And
correct.
I like how you guys do have it separate, though, on the Warhorse. You got the 3.5 for the bass knob, and whenever you have it in competition mode, which a lot of guys are, you don't have to worry about, you know, the potentiometers moving. You don't have to worry about phase or gain matching, but then you can't use the bass knob. So I think that's a big reason why you made it two separate entities rather than the bass knob with that HUD display.
That's exactly why we did that. So being as the Warhorse, we did not want to burden. The Warhorse is about power. The Warhorse is about control and power, compact size, and I say this in a good way. We wanted to strip out anything that would add unnecessary cost to doing the number one goal, which was getting you raw power, a lot of it, dependable, and also giving you the ability to know what's going on with my amplifier. Because that was one of the things that we definitely heard when we went out into the field and we're doing, we had a bunch of NDA meetings in 2019, 2018, 2020, and we were actually asking people, okay, so what feature set do you want on this amplifier? This is what we're thinking. What do you guys think? You're the guys out here doing all this crazy stuff every day, so tell us what you think. And that's where the feature set for the Warhorse kind of got groomed, as we actually took input from users to get where we were at. So number one, we stuck with the 3.5 millimeter jack for a couple different reasons. Number one, we're just sending audio signal back and forth. It's a shielded cable. It's the best way to do it. A lot of those remote based knob controllers, and I understand why people like them, because they snap in and they don't unplug real easy, but they're using RJ11. They use RJ11 or Cat5 cable, but they're still sending audio over that cable. It's not a shielded cable. You really shouldn't be sending audio over that cable. You can do it, but you shouldn't be doing it.
Could cause any kind of interference, like we were talking about. You need to build a Faraday cage for your whole
it's possible. So a lot of those RJ11 and RJ45 jacks, understand that they're just passing audio up and down just like we are, but they're using it over an RJ11 or RJ45 cable. They're not doing a voltage controlled amplifier. They're just passing audio. And all things being equal, you're a whole lot better off to pass that audio over a shielded 3.5 style cable than you are an RJ11 or an RJ45 cable.
That makes sense with the shielded cable. I mean, you had me there. That's
why we do that. Now, we do it separate for the exact same reason you just said, is that based upon input from the field, the guys who are going to be, there's basically two camps of people. There's the guy.
I had to throw that up.
It's my pretend age.
We know it's a schmedium at least. We know it's a schmedium. It's
at least a schmedium. The guy, we're going to be there's two customers that we determined we're going to buy a Warhorse, especially this one with 3.6. It's going to be a guy who just wants to put in a single driver or maybe a pair, and he just wants to pound the street and have a lot of output and a lot of bass. So he's going to buy a pair of F10s, a pair of 12s, a single 15, and he wants to give it the beans. And so 1 amp is going to be his. And typically this customer, he can't power 2 of these amps if he wanted to, because let's be honest, most of these guys, they're not going to upgrade the alternator. You might get them to upgrade the battery, and that's out of our control. We can't change that. But that guy needs a remote based volume knob. Now, the guy who's going to be running 4 of these amplifiers, 6 of these amplifiers, 12 of these amplifiers, Drew Jones, anyone who's doing that kind, you're not going to use our BassKnob because you're going to use some kind of one knob controls them all at the same time, which is why
RCA
there's the competition mode. Oh, hey, there you go. That's why I love sharing this information. I mean, I sit back in the background and I hear all this stuff and see this stuff going on. And I'm like, I put that in my brain. And I'm like, okay, I want to give the reason why we do this. It's not just for a random reason. There's actually a reason for it.
I know. I'm learning a lot, even before the show, setting up the show, learning, just car audio, computers. Kip's smart, and that's the best way to learn. Talk to someone smart.
I learn something new every day if I pay attention. So knowing that there were going to be these extreme guys who are going to run multiple amplifiers, they do want the diagnostics for every single amplifier. They want to know the voltage of every single amplifier. They want to know these stats about each amplifier. But they're not going to use the remote BassKnob at all because they're doing it from one main control knob. So competition mode, you don't need to use the RG knob, excluding RG, because you're using it with multiple amps. Competition mode makes sure all your amplifiers are on the same page so you don't have phasing issues and voltage issues and gain matching issues. And now you don't have a knob that's this big that you got to mount 6 of them so you can look at the display diagnostics. You got 6 of them, they're this big because the knob's not coming along for the ride. So the knob can or cannot be used, so it saves space on guys who don't need it. Even if you're using the knob and you're using the display, some guys want to actually mount the knob in a center console or put it somewhere else independent of the display. So keeping them separate makes it a whole lot easier to do that because now you're not asking someone to be an engineer and take it apart and cut the circuit board or do whatever they needed to make it 2 separate pieces. We just looked at it all around as a win-win-win. If we do it as 2 separate pieces, it just makes it the most flexible possible. It addresses the issue that we're going to need to bring audio up this 3.5 millimeter shielded cable. And now it leaves us to use a Cat 5 style cable to do what we want to do, which is provide some real usable onboard diagnostics.
I mean, it makes sense, of the separation of the two. And I know a lot of people, I did tend to look at the clip light on the KXA 2400, not going to lie, and I still pushed it past it, But why was there not oversight, because you guys don't oversight it, why was there a decision made to not have a clip? I mean, I love all the stuff you have in there. All right,
bring that picture back up that you just had, please, for me.
We'll take a look at it. Give me one. Boom. Second.
Bring that up. Okay. So what we've got there is basically we have a very, very, very sensitive, low latency voltage meter. And it's going to be able to register your high voltage and your low voltage. And until you actually play with one of these, you won't get what I see. There are other companies that do make some high sensitivity, low latency meters, and they're accurate. I mean, they change, they monitor, and it's going to record the absolute high and the absolute low. So that's a fantastic feature for someone who, especially for troubleshooting, is like, well, why is my amplifier doing this? Why is my amplifier doing that? Is this will capture high and low voltages faster than your typical multimeter will. So you're not going to get a truer reading of what that voltage actually is at the amplifier than you are out of this meter right here.
It's inside the amplifier.
It's inside the amplifier, and I can tell you, Fernando, the guy who designed this and worked on the entire project, he was prouder than a pig in poop when he was designing this because it was just, he would bring it up and he would show off just the multimeter part of it, the voltage meter. He's like, oh, see how this works and the latency and it captures and how fast, and it's just like, I mean, he was just in love with it. So you've got that, and then you've got the 4 diagnostic modes. Here's the issue. Remember what I said we wanted to keep cost as low as possible on the Warhorse amplifiers, but provide tons of reliable power?
Yeah.
This amplifier does not have a DSP inside of it.
No.
Everything is done via analog circuits. Okay. So with 8 pins that come off of a Cat 5 cable, and to show all the things that we're showing here, which one do we want to give up if we want to do clipping?
Get what you're saying. I mean, I like how you can show if there's an error, if it's the power supply section or the output section. I mean, if it was me, this is just me, I would want to know if my amp's in protect or not. That's probably more me, because at the end of the day, I ain't fixing it. I'm sending it to you guys, and you guys can find out if it's the output section or the input section. But now, that's just me.
now leave this, if you can, leave this up for a second.
I will.
So here's the other reality is, if you're setting up your system right, Okay, and not that I'm knocking. I mean, I know Rockford has done a clipped LED indicator on the amplifiers. We did it on the KX amplifiers. But the KX amplifiers had DSP inside them. So keep that in mind. There was something, but I mean, 1% THD, that light came on. It was very accurate. But if you're setting up your amplifiers and you're doing it right, you're going to be using an O-scope. You're going to be using some kind of tool to set that up. And yes, you're going to have some kind of dB overlap. Unless you only listen to music recorded in the last 3 years, it's nothing but sine waves, then you don't need any overlap. Just set it for what clipping is and call it a day. But if you're going to listen to some older music that actually has some dynamic range to it, you're going to have to put yourself 10, 12, 15 dB of overlap in there, or you're never going to get any bass for that older style.
These guys are putting at -15 and then playing, rebass on YouTube. It's just, +3. They want it all.
So you should set the game properly to begin with.
Yeah.
I say this tongue-in-cheek as I laugh about it because I think in some cases I'm no better. Come on, you guys are running this thing at 10% THD all the time. Really? 1%? You're stopping?
I mean, at least 5%. At least 5%. I know I would ask you about the KX. I'm like, when is this thing coming on? Because I swear I'm not clipping that early, but you said it was like 95% or 0.95% it used to come on at rather than just 1%, just a little less. So it gave you a little leniency. I think I like the clip limiter just because even though I'm setting my gain with the O-scope or whatever with the SPL LAB, right? And I can see exactly what's happening. If it's clean, it's not. It's an awesome, just awesome equipment to test anything with, And
the pig and poof
the voltage. When my voltage would drop, then it's like I'm not even playing where I had it set and now I'm clipping. But that 2 to 3% is it going to make a big difference compared to, still.
And so we had to make a decision on what we're going to put in this display, and we wanted to provide diagnostics that could actually help you figure out during not only the setup process, but the daily operation process or at a competition, what's going on with my amplifier. So first, you need to know if your amplifier is on or off. So you got to have a power LED. You got to know if it's on. And with these guys, a lot of times the amplifiers are hidden. You can't get to them. You can't see them. Hence, the competition mode to set all the controls so you can do all those adjustments externally on one DSP or whatever you're going to use. And two, you got to see the amplifiers on. If they're hidden, I can't see the LED. Is it on or is it not on? I don't know. So the power LED makes sense. We had to have that. The temperature LED we thought was fantastic because it gives, even though we're not reading out the actual temperature, I think it's more important that people know, okay, am I cool? Am I somewhere in the middle, or am I in protection mode, or am I getting close protection mode? So that's where, without having a DSP and doing all the analog circuits, if it's off, the amp's off. If the light's green, it's less than 65 degrees Celsius. If it's orange, you're somewhere between 65 and 85. And if you're going into the red, you're obviously in thermal. That's why the amplifier's not working. Let's tell you that. And then the two, which are, I feel, very unique for us, is the power supply protection and the amp protection. We're literally monitoring the power supply separately from the output section. So why is that important? Well, if you're playing the amplifier, you're playing the system, and you just know it's not sounding right, or it's not hitting, or the amp's going into protect before I even get up on the volume knob. Well, is the amp light coming on? Yeah, the amp light's coming on all the time. Maybe you got to shorten your speaker wires. Maybe you got to shorten one of your voice coils. You got something.
You're right.
You got something after the power supply section that's causing problems.
That makes sense. It is for the competitors because they have so many speakers, so many wires going everywhere, and they can look at every individual amp and be like, okay, would you look at that? That is it's grounding out somewhere on the output section, so it's a speaker. It could be a blown speaker. It could be just wires
shorted speaker wire, shorted to ground, anything like that.
Okay, so that makes sense. Now I can sleep a little bit better at night. I'm going to miss the clip light, not going to lie, but it does make sense, It was a matter of choices, flip a quarter. We're gonna win or lose to somebody. By the way, next time I want to flip a quarter too to help with the chances, clip light, come on.
So, a shorted output transistor, a shorted speaker wire, shorted whatever, that's what that amp section is telling you, that there's something in the amplifier section down chain that's got a problem. Now, if the power supply light comes on, but your amp light's not coming on, well, that tells you your load's good, you're not shorted, you don't have any blown FETs or shorted FETs. But if that thing's coming on, then that tells you you've got a bad switching transistor from the power supply. You may have undersized wiring that's causing problems. It's getting really extreme. And
Yeah.
the other thing that comes along with that, which is I don't know of any amplifier this size that does it, but this amplifier is start-stop capable, meaning you can put it in a car that the engine turns off, when the
Right.
car starts back up,
Yep.
if the amp will still stay. Now, it's not going to give you 5,000 watts, but
No,
it's not going
but-
to turn off, so you don't get that turn on pop, turn on pop.
So you're telling me at 9 volts there's still a chance, right? I'm good.
still a
I'm good.
you're going to make less power, but it's not going to turn off till 6.5 volts.
You know, that KXA, I wouldn't say it goes that low, but I've seen 10s out of it, and it's like, it's just still going full tilt boogie. And yeah, obviously I didn't keep it like that in that situation, but it's like, man, I need more electrical. But it's crazy.
When we do innovations in any product at Kicker, we can't innovate everything at the same time. So what happens is the 6.5 volt turn on or amplifier turn on turn off, I think if I remember right, it either started in the Key or it started in the CX line of amplifiers. I'd have to pick my brain before I come up with that answer to be correct about it, but we started it there. Of course, when we do that, it's because that line of amplifiers was set for refresh, and this was a technology our engineers had come up with and made really functional. So like, well, let's put it in these new amplifiers. Well, then what happens is a dealer or a consumer goes, hey, why does the higher end amplifier not have this feature? This amplifier's got this 6.5 volt turn-off threshold, but the KX doesn't have it. Why not?
Right.
Well,
Right.
it's because the feature was created at the time we could insert it into this new product that was getting changed, and then when the next product rolls over, it'll get these advanced features rolled into it. So there
And
are
that's kind
times,
of how you guys do stuff all the time.
correct.
All the
There are
time.
just times where features don't roll into all the products at the same time because we don't roll all the product lines at the same time.
That's crazy. I mean, it does make sense. And, you know, I almost thought like, well, mostly people that are running the KXA line or KX line, maybe not so dependent on start-stop technology because like they want more power. They're looking for like, you know, that kind of just more, you know, I don't know. But to have it for everything is cool. Just like the 40 volt pre-out input, you know, capabilities. I forget what you call it, iFit or something like that. And to just, it's cool to have it on everything.
It sounds crazy to do that, but the reality is factory stereos are here to stay. Unless, for the average user, you're not bypassing that factory radio, and the higher end systems, even some of the midline systems are now coming with amplifiers that are 50 watts channel, 75 watts channel. They'll have a couple hundred watts to the bass section, up as high as 400 in some of the higher end systems. And if someone wants to improve that system, whether it's, you know, with different equalization, add a DSP, do different things, add more power, all I want's a ton of bass. Well, the only way we can interface into that system is we got to be able to grab that factory subwoofer output from the stock radio and use it. And so that's why fit inputs, it
makes sense.
we're trying to take away, you don't need to put a lot of other electronics in front of the input to the amplifier. You can literally take the speaker leads and go straight into the RCAs. It's not balanced, although we call it that. It's a differential input.
We ain't getting all SQ over here. Yeah, yeah. As soon as you said balance, I'm like, oh no, here we go. Here to come with the pitchforks.
It's differential, but most people will look at it and they see it as balanced. But
Yeah,
a diff
especially if you
input,
look at it like that. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. So what I was going to mention next was like with the 40 volt pre-out, I want to almost convert every setup that I have that I'm using RCA low level outputs, you know, and to use maybe just the rear outputs of the speaker, you know, my aftermarket head unit, to just get a better, you know, noise floor, you know, better signal to noise, lower gain needed, and all the kicker amps that I got can take it. And it makes sense. I remember you telling me about head units and they're just using like a resistor. It's not a true low level output.
There's many, many, many radios out there, and it used to be we could draw the line at $600, and that it's even changed since then. But they don't put a true preamp in them anymore. They have RCA outputs, but all they're doing is it's just a chip amplifier for the speaker leads. And what they do is they just drop a couple of resistors on there to pull the signal down, and that's how you get your RCA signal. And that's why a lot of times, if you feel the back of a radio and you're not using the speakers, but you're just using the RCAs, but the back's hot, it's because it's still dumping all the power that it would make if you were using the speakers. And then there's resistors that just bring the signal down and send it up the RCAs. And so that's why, and trust me,
That's crazy.
being an old school guy, There was a time in my past where you never used the speaker wires. If you had to use the speaker wires, it was a guaranteed not going to sound good. Everything you wanted to move to an RCA preamp and actually have a true preamp section.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that way today, and I know it sounds crazy to say that, but you take any good, decent radio out in the market today, the speaker leads coming out of there, you're going to get a good, solid 10 volts peak output.
Yeah.
Run that 10 volts back. That's what you want, baby. And then with the fit inputs,
rather than 2 to 4, and man, you know,
and
even
it all has, it's all about this. If you got 5 volts of noise on your car, you got 5 volts of noise, and you send 2 volts of signal back, there's 3 volts of noise that you're trying to squash over, and you're not going to. You're going to hear the noise if it gets induced in that cable. But if you got 2 volts of noise, you got 10 volts of signal. Now that noise, it's masked, it's covered up because you've got such a strong signal going back to the back. And plus, amplifiers, they just, when you give them a good drive signal, they just sound better. And that's why back in the day, these preamp boxes, the line drivers that they were called, back then it was 5 volt or 9 volt. That's why they were so popular, is because if you had an amplifier that was capable of taking that high voltage, it just sounded better, driving a stronger signal to the back.
Makes sense. You're almost, in a sense, kind of amplifying less in a way, you know.
Oh, you are amplifying less. I mean, here's
like
the funny thing.
Digital zoom. Less digital zoom needed.
If you have a 100-watt amplifier and it's tasked with making 100 watts, okay, if you convert that to voltage, if you send a 1-volt signal back there, it's got to do more amplifying than if you send it a 10-volt signal back there. It's just, as long as the input stage is designed to actually take that signal, not reduce it, but actually use it, then you're going to start with a higher voltage, and then you're not having to multiply it as much, which what an amplifier does, it multiplies voltage. So yes, you're 100% correct on that, Andy. 100%.
That's crazy.
Now, but that's
I was just guessing. I was guessing.
No, but that's only on an amplifier that actually will take that much input voltage straight into the preamp and use it. There are a lot of amplifiers today that claim they'll take input voltage like that, but what they do is they take the voltage in, they go through a built-in knockdown resistor network and knock it down to 1 to 2 volts, then feed that into the preamp on the amplifier. Wow. That's not doing you any good.
No, it's still keeping you at that level regardless of how much you put in. It's just, okay, we're going to start here, and maybe that's just like cheaper parts that are inside that can't handle that higher, pre-in voltage, whatever, low level.
It's just how you build your preamp. If you design it, that's why we've got the button on there for the high-low range, so that you can select between the 2 different voltages. And if you've got something that has that extreme high output voltage, it's literally taking it straight into the preamp. It's not knocking it down, it's taking the voltage.
I love it. And since we got Derek here, thank you, Derek, for tuning in with us. Love all what you do as well. I know he was mentioning with the Warhorse when he was dynoing it, it's set at 4 volts, correct, for the competition mode?
Correct.
So when you have that 4 volts, I feel like a lot of radios, even if they're not at 4 volts, or they claim at 4 volts, that might be at volume 35 out of 35, with a 0 dB offset, and I feel like that's fine for competition. What do you think? Could you recommend a key lock as a line driver, just so that you could get a little bit more pre-out, even if you're sending that to the RCAs at 4 volts in competition mode, and then have a bass boost in between, or a bass knob in between to regulate that?
Here's the thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you've got in your signal path. You're in charge of if you're overdriving it or you're not.
Right.
It's that simple. So if you got a gas pedal here that could give me 100 volts.
Yes.
And I got an amplifier back here that reaches full output power with 40 volts. All that means is you can only push the gas pedal down to 40 volts.
So I'm good right there. That's it. No clipping, huh?
As long as it's outputting 40 volts and this amp's designed to take 40 volts, you're going to get full output power and it's not going to clip. Yeah. Now, what happens, and this is where you get into some weirdness, is if you've got a situation where you're driving a whole lot more voltage to the back than your amplifier is capable of handling, your volume knob, you might notice at like 1/3, you're all the way up. You can't send any more voltage back because you're already at full output. Well, if you go from nothing to 1/3 up, that's not much range. So you don't have a lot of stepping in there. It's like nothing, and it's all the way up.
One ugga dugga.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the Warhorse
Ugga dugga.
bass knobs too. I thought it was going to be ugga dugga like the KX, but it's not. You can get like little small, accurate, just on the bass knob too, because you don't want those big ugga duggas. You don't, you don't. You see any more comments, questions, Kip? Because we got to keep it to 90 minutes.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, representing Bluetooth audio, and 10 representing lossless audio, how would you rate your sourdough baking skills?
Oh, I've heard about that, man. Your starter. How is it going today? Did you already start it? Is it finished? What's going on?
I've actually got 2 loaves of bread proofing in the refrigerator that I will be baking tomorrow.
Now, have you made any bread bowls with your sourdough? Like bread bowls, like the Panera bread style, like how we do?
I have not done that yet.
You got to try it. Broccoli and cheddar soup.
Inspired me.
You got to try it.
I would say my bread, at this point, I'm going to rate my bread baking skills based upon some of the people I've followed on Pinterest and on YouTube and, other stuff. I'm going to say I'm a solid 6.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes that's enough to get by in life,
But some of the loaves of bread, some of the loaves of bread that I've had come out, I look at them, and then I go, compare it to other pictures, and I'm like, I made this. Mine almost looks better.
Yeah,
And I've had some
YouTube certified now, man. Yeah. You can make your own YouTube channel with bread. Yes.
Some of them,
I'll think of a name later. I'll come back to you. I got you.
Please do. But I tell you, baking bread, especially with sourdough, because if you do sourdough and you don't rush it, if you do it actually letting the sourdough ferment the natural way, don't use instant yeast to try to speed up the process. It takes 2 days to make it sour, to get it ready to go in the oven. It's a 2-day process to make a sourdough. But then when it comes out and that top's cracked open and it's crunchy on the outside, but yet soft on the inside, ain't
nothing like it.
I've made, well, I didn't know this. Who here likes grilled cheese sandwiches?
Oh, my favorite. That's yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, using homemade sourdough bread makes the best grilled cheese sandwich I've ever had. But
we've never tried it on a grilled cheese, like with her own bread, because she was making loaves and, the sourdough too. We'll have to try that.
All right, but here's the secret.
I'm learning a lot tonight.
Here's the secret. Don't butter your bread.
Oh, is it tarnish it?
Use mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise?
It was suggested to me, mayonnaise instead of butter. It makes the most golden brown, crispy, crunchy bread outer I've ever had on a grilled cheese sandwich.
It makes sense. That's crazy. I usually do that with like turkey, ham sandwiches, never grilled cheese, And I used to cook at IHOP, I learned how to make the best grilled cheese by cooking there, It's like, I can do that. That's about it. Can't.
As far as I know, unless he turned in a resignation today, I think Dave's still a kicker. I haven't heard he's gone.
I seen him. He's got his own office there. I seen him. Yeah, international. And we were talking about it earlier, but he travels, so he literally goes over to Europe and everything.
Right, he does.
That's crazy.
And, we were talking about USJC before the show being on here. Yeah, back in the day, acoustic was the external crossover of choice. XM2s, XM3s, XM2Is, XM3Is, and then if you were a baller, you had an XM7. Even if you weren't using all the outputs, you just had to have an XM7.
That's nuts.
Where should what be made?
I don't know. Thanks for tuning in, Drew. Appreciate you. Grilled cheese without butter. Blake, you triggered Blake. He wants butter on his grilled cheese. Well, you know what? Hey. You keep going with the questions. I'm going to get the answers. Try.
If you have
winners.
the answers.
Yeah, I got some, not too many.
All right, well, you go ahead and do that. I'll see if there's... Hey, here. So here's someone who knows what I'm talking about. The cassette tick was annoying. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've played with cassettes, I was a 90s baby, and messing with stereos with cassettes, recording the radio with the cassette, before recording with, your phone for ringtones when that was a thing. So I know a little bit about tapes. Not too much. Not 8 tracks. I'm not that old. Thanks for tuning in, Stu. Appreciate you, man.
Like PB and J night.
Yes. See, Kip was all worried. I'm like, Kip, if any two guys can do this show, it's going to be me and you, And I know you're a little rusty, but it looks like, the rust fell off and you were like Forrest Gump just running, You did good tonight.
I've got the quadruple aught steel wool still going at the bearings. We'll get them.
That's it. That's it.
Well, hey, it is fantastic to see you, Robert. Great to see you tonight on the show. It's good to be seen.
Yes, thank you for tuning in, Mr. Vega. Those guys
It's
are
like
awesome,
riding
man.
a bike,
Really
hipster.
are.
You got this. Bike with training wheels. You know, I gotta. Hey, you're getting your winners. I'll be right back. Don't go to work. Stay right here. While you're doing winners,
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not a pack rat per se, but I've got a lot of old stuff that I keep just because it's memories and stuff to me. But I remember back one of the very first pair, and I've got the tweeters here somewhere. I kept, but this is a KFC 1010 crossover network, and this is, I'm just gonna put up here and show it. So this is an old original Kenwood passive crossover network for a set of component tweeters that I had on the doors of my 1987 Honda Accord.
So that was your first car with your system in it? 19...
No, my first car that I put a system in, you know, you asked that. My very first car was a 1970, 76, 78. It was an Audi Fox 4-door car. So it was a little 4-speed car. And like most young drivers who get their first car, I immediately totaled it. I didn't even have,
you know.
I don't even think I had time to put a stereo system in it before I lost the car.
Aww.
And then, you know, after the insurance paid out and everything, I didn't have any money left. So I ended up with a 72 Pontiac Aster station wagon, 2-tone brown. It was as ugly as it sounds. And that was the first car that I started putting audio into. And actually, I had been kind of playing with car audio all through junior high. The guys I hung out with, I got along better with guys who were 2 to 3 years older than me. It just worked out. I don't know why, but I hung out with guys who were 2. So when they found out that I had just a little bit of electrical and mechanical skills, hey, you know, could you put in this or put in that? I'm like, yeah, I can probably do that. So I was making pretty decent money as a junior high kid, just putting in stereo systems for the juniors and seniors.
That's crazy.
And the cool part was, and I learned how to take cars apart and break them at the same time. But when you're a teenager, you don't even care, because I'd have guys come pick up their car and like, is it done? Is it ready to go? Like, yeah, it's all installed. It sounds great. But hey, hold on a second. What is it? Does it play? Does it work? I said, yeah, but hold on. I was taking this kick panel off and I really didn't know how it come off. And I said, I broke a tab. Oh, that's okay, man. Don't worry about that. Here, how much is it? I don't know, $65. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, here. Does it make noise? Does it sound good? Yeah, it sounds great. Okay, I'll see you later, boy. And
that's crazy. I
learned how to take apart car, and I did break a lot of stuff. I mean, I won't lie. Back then, there was a lot of stuff that I learned how to take cars apart by breaking them. And my first radio that I went to buy for myself, brand new radio, and I'd been putting in gear before I bought my own gear, obviously. And so I was shopping for a cassette player, and walked into this store that was in downtown Lima, and they sold Kenwood, they sold Sanyo. I can't remember the other brands. There's a few others, but there was a guy. He was asking questions, and the salesman had no idea what he was talking about. He didn't. The guy was asking what size speakers went in this car, and he didn't. I can tell you what car it was. It was Dodge Daytona, and that's how much I remember about it. And so the salesman walked off to go ask somebody some questions, and I just happened to walk up to the guy and said, "Hey, man," I said, "I've done a couple of those cars." I said, "It's 6.5s in the front, 6x9s in the back." He said, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, they'll fit in. He said, well, I don't see any location. And I said, yeah. I said, it's just carpet over plastic. I said, there's already a hole punched in the steel. You just have to cut it in there. You have to run the wire through the speaker door and through the boot. So it's no big deal. He said, okay. And he said, well, what would you get? And I said, well, I recommend these. He said, well, what radio would you get? And I said, well, what do you listen to? And he told me what he listened to. I said, yeah. I said, just get this high-powered Kenwood right here. I think, if I remember, I think it was KRC 2001. I may even have the model number memorized. And he said, really? I said, yeah. I said, that's going to give you a good 10 watts of speaker. I said, that's all you need for what you listen to. It'll be great. So salesman comes back, and he didn't have any answers, but the guy goes, yeah, I know. He said, just give me a pair of these, and give me that radio. And so he walks off with the salesman to complete the sale, and I'm just there messing around on the board, and I'm playing with stuff and listening to stuff. And the guy behind the counter, he says, hey, turn around. I said, yeah. He says, you seem to know a little bit about car audio. I said, yeah, I've installed some. I said, all the guys in high school, I said, I've installed a few of this, a few of that. And he said, okay. He said, are you looking for a job? I said, no, I'm not looking for, I'm looking for a radio. I don't need a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I already had a part-time job and I was going to school and, you know, I was still in high school and I really wasn't looking for a job. And he just kept talking and kept talking and kept talking. And he finally got to the point, he said, what I'm really looking for, he said, you don't even have to come work here at the store for me. He says, I'm looking for a guy that I can call, and if I sell someone a system that, you know, can actually go out and install the system at the customer's house. If they want to have it done, you can set an appointment. He said, that's between you and them. You can do the install at their home or at their business, whatever you want to do. And so I thought about it, and I called him back a few days later and said, yeah. I said, if you got some installs, send them my way. And that was the start of my career in retail car audio.
That's awesome. I mean, that's what Cornut does, mobile installer, you know, just going.
And I can tell you,
they need to do that more nowadays, though, you know, just here you go.
I can tell you, in Ohio, in the dead of winter, I was blessed if the customer had a garage.
Oh,
those were the installs I wanted to do.
You'll take the carport, too, you know, the carport helps something. He'd be out there with a tent, you know, and a pull out whatever. That's crazy though.
But that's
how you got into car audio in the sales side, installing, and then you worked there for quite some time and then the kicker, or was it?
I worked a couple different retail stores. My last retail experience, which I don't know if they tune in and watch, but was Berry Electronics, and a gentleman by the name of Dave Berry. He was actually a good customer of mine. And we got into a conversation, and he basically said he had a store. It had nothing to do with car audio whatsoever, but he was wanting to open up an audio division. And he talked me into coming down and working for him. And he said, basically, I'll fund it and you run it. So
wow,
I was basically from the ground up. I got to start a car audio store from scratch with Dave. And it's
that's right. I remember you telling me this. I do remember, you know, some of it I was trying to act like I didn't remember anything, but that was deep in the subconscious. I do remember you telling me that. That's crazy. You and Dave. I know whenever I first met you, I was like, are you Kip or Dave? Yes. Yes.
Yes, I am. So that's, you know, I worked a couple of different retail gigs. I had some other, I worked in the computer industry field for a while, did programming and data processing management. I worked in other retail, and I guess I got into not just car audio, but just electronic audio just appealed to me. Home, car, and it stuck. And so I moved from a couple different retail gigs. My last retail gig was with Barry and his sons there at Barry Electronics in Lima, Ohio. And then our rep for a couple of the lines we had was Rusty North, and Rusty and his counterpart Dan, they talked me into joining them, and so I went to work for an independent rep firm, and I maintained and visited dealers in a 4-state area, training them on products, problem solving, taking orders, you know, basically doing those kind of things. And during that time, So I've been to other manufacturers. Most manufacturers used to have, and Kicker still does, what they call a rep fest. And what they do is once a year, they bring in all of their independent reps from all the state territories, and they train them on what the new product's coming out is going to be, which is probably where you're getting your leak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reps find out about it, and then they, of course, go tell the dealers to talk about it, but they get the first taste of what the new stuff's coming out and everything like that. And so Rusty, who I went to work for Rusty, and I'll do my best, Rusty. Hi! He's literally from Texas. He lived in, it's your backyard. He lived in Houston, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And and he did a 4-state territory. He did Ohio, Michigan, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania over State College. That was his territory.
Wow.
And so Rusty in Houston, Pennsylvania, he said, at the time when I was working with him, our region was the #1 sales region for Kicker for amplifiers. We sold more amplifiers in that 4-state region than anywhere else in the United States. And the regional,
so he was good at what he did, you know. Yeah.
Well, he was good at what he did, but he put the onus on me because he happened to be in a conversation with the national sales manager from Kicker at the time one day. And he was like, man, you guys are just knocking it out of the park. He said, how are you guys doing so good with these Kicker amplifiers? And I'm doing my best, Rusty, here. Hey, it's my guy. It's my guy. I send him out in the field. He trains these guys. He talks to them about the crossover. When he's done, they understand it. They can use it. They understand all the features, and it's easy. He says they just put in order after order after order. It's my guy. I'm telling you, it's my guy. And so Rusty, and Rusty sounds just like sounds just like that.
I got to meet Rusty. He sounds
yes,
like a good guy. Yeah.
I love Rusty. And so Rusty came to me. He'd been telling me about we were going to this Kicker Rep Fest because we were going out to have a Rep Fest and be introduced to all the new Kicker products, meet all the Kicker people. And he said, hi, I got something for you to do when we go to this Rep Fest. I said, okay, what's that? He said, yeah, I've been talking to the National, and we've decided we're going to carve out about 45 minutes, and you're going to train Kicker on how to sell their amplifiers. I said, excuse me?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. He says, I think it's a good idea that you go tell them what they need to know about how to sell their amplifiers. And, of course, I'm sitting there going, I don't think this is a good idea at all. I shouldn't be telling anybody how to sell their amplifier.
Yeah, they're fine. I know nothing.
I don't need it. But Rusty, he attributes it to what I was able to do in the field as far as training and breaking things down to be real easy to understand. And the dealers did get it, and they did real well with it. And so
that's awesome. So that's how you got your foot originally in the door.
At this Rep Fest, they had 45 minutes carved out, and I went up in front of all these people I've never met. I can't tell you how nervous I was, Andy. Boy, I was nervous. Yeah. More nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And
I've never heard that one. That's a good one.
And
that's a good, is that a new Kipism right there?
You can put it there if you want to. I mean, it's fine.
Put it there. We have a list. There's a dedicated list, all right?
But they, I got up and I basically just did a presentation to that entire room like I was doing a presentation to a dealer. And at the end of that training, Steve Irby, the owner of the company, looked over to the general manager at the time and said, why doesn't that guy work for us? And so it wasn't long after that I got an invitation to come out and interview for a position at Kicker. So
wow. Well, you got that invitation a day late, I heard. You know, John beat you. It's that snail mail getting you. I think we got a few winks tonight, but nothing too crazy. We got to watch how much we're winking here, you know?
Well, I know everybody. I mean, trust me, that it's not landing on deaf ears, the thing on the clip light, and it was a decision that was made. I'm not going to say it was a right or wrong decision. I definitely hear what Hi-Fi saying. I definitely hear what Big D, Derek saying. Did we make the right call? There's always tomorrow.
Yep.
But there's only so much we could do over that RJ45 cable.
Physical limitations of just that.
Now, if we put in a DSP or the added cost of adding microcontrollers on both ends and then actually interpreting and capturing data and doing things, which it just keeps adding parts and costs and just keeps driving it up, then we could have probably done even more than what we've done.
And the Warhorse is $1,099. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but the KXA 2400 was the same price, if not more, wasn't it?
The KXA 2400.1, when it first came to market, was $1,200.
That's what I'm saying. And that did less power. You're getting 1,200 watts more out of this Warhorse pretty much everywhere. Close to 4 ohms. I mean, I think Derek did 2,000 or something, or 1,800 at 4 ohms. Like it was a lot. It was as much as the CX 1800 does at 2. So you're getting more power up there.
The thing that, and I've seen some of the comments in the section. Of course, I've seen comments that have come up since you did your release on. I've seen the comments since Robert's done his release and unveiling video. I've seen the amp dyno. I've watched the amp dyno from Derek multiple times.
It's worth the second watch. Yeah.
I have watched it multiple times. Here's the only thing I can say. Kicker as a brand is never going to be the least expensive box on the shelf. It's just not going to happen. If you look at all the companies that are left, the big companies that people know the name brands of, okay, JL Audio is now owned by Garmin Industries. So JL Audio is no longer owned by their founding fathers or part of that company anymore. They've been bought out.
What? I didn't know that.
Yes. JL Audio is now owned by Garmin. Rockford Fosgate is now owned by, I'll think of it, I forget, but the same company that bought Rockford Fosgate bought Wet Sound. So they are under an umbrella company now. And basically the company that bought them is they've decided that they want to keep Wet Sounds targeted for marine audio, and they want to keep Rockford targeted towards RV and
Power
UTVs.
sports. Yeah.
Power sports,
yeah.
UTV. And so if PPI, Orion, if you go back into the Wayback Machine, start pulling these name brands out. Let's talk about Zapco, which Zapco today is not Zapco. I'm telling you, don't buy anything today from Today Build Zapco and think it's like old Zapco. It's not, guys. It's just a cheap Chinese amplifier with Zapco's name on it. It's not Robert Zeff product anymore.
Wow.
So, I was talking to Steve just the other day about this, and that we Kicker are the last American-owned by the owner who started the company left. There's nobody left. They've all been bought up, bought out, or the names have been sold. Like PPI is just a name that's in a hat that it's cheap Chinese gear with their name on it now.
Right. It's not even like they passed away and passed it down. It's not like.
And so we do take our knocks, and it's just the people who say this, they just don't understand the logistics of manufacturing in today's world. We do everything we can right here in the United States of America in that building over there on Husband Street. Sales, marketing, R&D. We take our own. We are an in-house shop that does everything, and we do some final assembly work there. We do rebuild subwoofers there. When we get enough of the old cast basket stuff, we'll do a run and we rebuild subwoofers there for B stock. We do everything we can there, and we buy as much as we can based in the United States of America. But the problem is, unless you're a company that's doing limited production runs and machining everything yourself, like Phi, there is no buying a motor that has been machined here in the United States of America. There is no buying a basket that's machined here in the United States of America. There's only one or two places left that you can buy voice coils, and ironically, on some of our product, we buy the coils here in the States and we ship them overseas to be inserted into the products.
Wow.
But in the grand scheme of things, as Rockford and JL and other companies started shifting their products offshore, Kicker was one of the last companies to move offshore. And the thing that people don't realize is what put the nail in the coffin is at that time, our product was being built by a company, the woofers were being built by a company in Kentucky called Credence. And Credence was building Steve Irby's designs. And Credence, and I know this as a kicker, this goes all the way back to when I was a kicker dealer, and I'm not knocking, I'm just speaking truth here. I would place an order with Kicker, and I might order a dozen comp C10s and a dozen C12s, and I might get 4 of each, and the rest of them going back order. I could hardly ever get a full order out of Kicker when I was a retailer, and it's because what I didn't know at the time, but I learned after the fact, as I moved up the chain through repping and then came to work for Kicker, is Kicker would place an order with Credence, and Kicker might say, okay, we need 10,000 woofers, and a semi-truck would show up from Kentucky, and there'd be 3,500 woofers on the truck, and Kicker's going like, where's the other 6,500? And they're like, we'll get to you. And so Credence actually went out of business. And when Credence went out of business, it forced Kicker, the company, and Steve to make some decisions about, okay, what are we going to do to make sure that the company is viable and profitable moving forward and has a consistent supply of product. And for all of the knocks that people want to give us for making products in China, Taiwan, Thailand, Korea, because we do manufacture in all parts of the world, what you get out of those factories is what you put into it, okay? Yep. So junk in, junk out. There are products that are built, there are some manufacturers that we lease space and line from where our products are built, but that is a Kicker area and a Kicker only. There might be another brand running down an assembly line somewhere else, but it does not mean they're using our technology. We do all our own tools and dies. We do all of our own research and design. We do all of our own Gerbers. We do everything we do here, and then we have to babysit it through the entire process to make sure we get a quality product.
Yep.
Would we like to do more manufacturing in the U.S.? Sure. Who wouldn't like to? But the problem is to vertically integrate like that. You know, the day when Kicker got started, it's like, okay, even Credence was like, okay, they're getting the basket stamped here, they're getting the cones made here, they're getting all the sub-assembly parts made to their specification, and then Credence just brought all the parts together and made a final speaker that they could sell to Kicker. Well, all those companies who do those sub-assembly parts, they don't exist anymore. They all moved off, they either went out of business or they shipped all their machines offshore. We can't buy stuff here in the U.S. It's just not made here.
No.
So
it's, just like all the batteries are overseas too. You know, you don't hear people complaining about that. I mean, but
we do everything we can. We do everything we can. The proud thing about it is, I mean, there's 200 plus employees over there, plus our reps in the field and other place that, all make a living from Kicker. We do all of our research and design here. We do everything we can to make a quality product. We try to go above and beyond on the warranty side of the equation. I think anyone who's ever had to deal with the company when it comes to warranty knows that we are one of the most open and go above and beyond companies for warranty that exists.
Yep.
And so
that's the best thing is the warranty, because it's you blow the speaker, you give them a call, even if it's your fault.
I'd pay $100 for VU meter. I'd pay $100 for a spectrum analyzer, but I'm a lights and VU meter guy. I'm with Derek on that. I like that kind of stuff, even if it does nothing for the sound. I just like looking at it.
I usually have one on the bottom. I got too many things going on, no blue, but we usually got a little VU meter on the bottom of the screen. Why not? They're awesome. They are awesome.
So the one thing I'll say for people who say that is, all I can say is, if you think that it can be done, it can't. We do as much of it as we can, and the quality of the product, just because it's built in China, it's like I said, it's what kind of quality do you want? You get out of it what you monitor and put into it.
I hate it because it's almost like a placebo and nostalgia effect that the people that been around that bought Kicker stuff, and then they're like, oh well, they make it in China, there's no way it could be as good as it was when they made it here, or just the OG original stuff. And it drives me nuts, because all this stuff, even if it wasn't whatever, it's going to be better because it's just 20 years of technology advancements, for one, and two, you guys learned a lot since then, so you're going to make changes. And then three, it's just, man, you guys go through every step. That's why it takes so long to make something, because you have to make it, send it off, bring it back. Is it good? And maybe it's not. We need to change it. You guys need to not cheap out on this part. We want it this way. Look at what is that?
Okay, so this, like I said, I went through the garage and just pulled some stuff out. I got tons of stuff, but
this
is a Kicker D20 tweeter. They used to offer them in a round frame or a square frame. And man, back in the day when you just wanted something that was loud and proud, these got the game going.
Yeah,
these were
that's
amazing.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I've got this is a brand new D20 that I don't know why I have it, but I do. But along with
just
that, it's and then this, I don't think I'll ever get rid of this because it's just, but this is a brand new in a box. This is one of the KQ5 preamps.
Oh, I need one of those. I was looking at just that volume controller you guys have for the Marines, just so I can do for that, but that's even cooler.
Here, I'll do it for you. I'll take it out of the bag.
Oh, we get to look at it, huh? We get to really
look at it. But this is literally a brand new KQ5 from the day, and I absolutely love it. And what's cool about this piece is it's a 5-band parametric EQ. So there's an inner knob and an outer knob. So the inner knob, the small one, is your gain control, boost or cut. But then the outer knob, you could select what frequency you wanted that knob to be. So like here on the bass knob, it's 40 to 90. So it wasn't just like it was a fixed 45 hertz or 50 hertz bass boost knob. You could actually adjust the frequency you wanted it to boost or cut on the fly.
Wow.
And this
control is king. Control is king.
Yeah. This is a piece of history that, and I wanted to find it because I loved it too, and I've got one out there in the garage and I can't find it. But someone else chimed in.
I've seen some stuff like that pop up on eBay and Marketplace, but nothing of that exact thing right there. That is different.
The piece that inspired this, and anyone who's into car audio for more than 30 seconds like I am, remembers the PPI PAR, and I have a PPI PAR out in the garage somewhere, and I won't ever get rid of it either. I'll hang on to it until, they can put it in my casket with me when I'm dead.
I get tempted so many times. I'm like, I don't need all this Kicker stuff. I don't need all these subwoofers, and it's so hard to let anything go because you never know. Yeah.
And then I've actually seen some posts this past week, and no, it's not for sale yet. I don't know if I'll ever want to sell it, but
the SXRC, don't tell Ashy. He's gonna be messaging you right after the show.
But I have, and it's not, it's take it. I actually have
it. It's mint.
I have one in a box, and it's just the thing. I want to when you're, I want to say this. I don't want to sound prideful. I just want to come across as very proud of my involvement in it.
Yeah.
But the SX amplifier project that we did, which was the SXRC remote, and that back there is an SX 700.4 amplifier, brand new in the box. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it either.
I know that's originally how I was going to have you on and talk about that. I'm like, well, we at least got to talk about KIP and just talk about whatever first. That's the fun stuff. We'll
we need to do
SX.
it. We can do an old SX. We can get back together sometime in the future and do an SX show. But what's really cool about that amplifier is I was on the team that designed that amplifier, and the remote, and so the display that's on the SX series amplifiers and the button layout and the graphics and the font and everything that you see and interact with on that, I designed all that.
That's crazy.
I came up with the menu system and how everything laid out as far as how you access it and how you use it. And this is truth. Truth is better than fiction. Hey, Ashy. At the time, and if you go back to the original SX days, there were not a lot of people. Matter of fact, about the only company I can think of that was doing anything with DSP was maybe Alpine. And so Kicker was one of the second companies to get into doing DSP, because we actually sent our these amplifiers and the SXRC out to Alpine dealers to have them test it and compare it to what Alpine had. And at the time, ours blew the Alpine out of the water as far as functionality and ease of use and everything else. And there's a company outside of Stillwater here in Perry called Ditch Witch, and they're the ones who do the directional boring machines, the underground boring and things like that, and the what's the ones that dig all the dirt out of the ground? Trenchers.
Auger or something, yeah.
Augers and trenchers. Well, back then, there was a gentleman working there, and he worked on their control systems, and he was literally a Russian rocket scientist. He was a DSP software and programming engineer, and he worked out he defected from Russia, somehow got over here, and he was working for Ditch Witch. But his hobby was audio. His hobby in Russia, he was an audio guy. And somehow Steve Irby or somebody at the company got connected up with this guy from Ditch Witch, and we brought him in as a consultant, and he and I worked together on a lot of different things. And if I can find a lot of the old materials and some of the test stuff on that whole project, we need to do a show on it because it's really cool stuff. And
so
I probably
you guys
have it.
Literally had a rocket scientist. I joke around like you guys are rocket scientists at Kicker in the amp section, just designing stuff, and you actually had one that helped design that. That's crazy.
It couldn't be any better because his name, I kid you not, was Vlad. So when you think of a guy from Russia,
I'll go
his
to
name
the
was
moon.
Vladimir. And I'll try to do my best Vladimir the first time I met him. Yes, my name's Vlad. I work, on the missile control systems for the intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, we make an amplifier for you. Yeah.
You're Washington D.C. and you're Atlanta, Georgia. I work on the systems to send the missiles over to blow those places up. But my real passion is audio, and I'm very happy to be here working with you on this project.
That's awesome. That was good. That was good. And that's crazy, though, and I love the SX amplifiers. Bob has sent me a few of them. I got one of those 700.4s you got at 1250, a prototype from John Myers. He had a few laying around too. They are awesome with just the control on them. The remotes do the same thing that the amplifier does. I almost wish you guys would bring that back for the SQ side of things again. I love the IQ amps. The apps are cool. I mean, there's nothing out there right now yet. I'm sure you guys are working on something. Can we get a wink?
The future is DSPs, external.
Oh, it really is. It really is. Yeah.
Imagine if the IQ amplifier was to have a baby with a key 200.4.
Ooh. So you would have some kind of microphone that would self-auto-tune and DSP and phase align, time alignment, all that kind of fun stuff, but in a DSP so it can go out to any amplifier you have hooked up and just do all the magic for you.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, and I've been dying for something like that. I can't run unless it's, like not even power wire. Like I buy Kicker stuff, and it's like need a DSP, but I won't put something that's not kicker in here that people are going to see first. I'll survive. And that's cool. I know you guys been working on something.
I love you too, Ashy, man, and I hope your bread making has come along and you've gotten into doing some of that, because it is very pleasurable to go from scratch, make something that you then eat it and go like, man, I made this. It's really good. I mean, there's a pride in that.
I keep seeing his comment, and we're going to do it for 25. He always asks for the Making It Rain video.
Make it rain.
Hit it, Michael!
These guys have been making it rain this show, and I haven't done all the fancy stuff, but we've been just talking, and this has been an amazing show, Kip. It really has. It really has.
The sad part is, and I've proven it, unfortunately, with you and some others at times, I could sit here and talk with you for hours about anything, because it's not like this isn't work to
90
me.
minutes.
90 minutes. We have you on camera saying 90 minutes. That's a lie.
I enjoy talking about this stuff. I enjoy the questions. I tell you what I really enjoy is when I get a question I don't know the answer to, that I can actually either try to figure it out or just say, I don't know, I'll have to come back to that one. But it's I like seeing the questions, I like sharing stuff, I like talking with you guys. It's really fun. I mean, I had someone make a comment once, and it actually brought me to tears. And I'm not even ashamed to say that, is that, Kip doesn't talk to us like he's a manufacturer. Kip talks to us like he's our friend.
Yeah.
And I work for Kicker. That's my day job, and I'm proud of what I do, and I'm proud of what our company does. But I do, I can't get behind something that I don't believe in my heart. And
right. Oh, we missed you, Kip.
But there's other great product out there too. I mean, I don't want guys to think I get my paycheck, my rent, I get to eat because of Kicker, and I love the company I work for.
And that's the thing too. You don't want to just be a salesman. It's no fun. You got to have that personal connection, and I think that's where we have something in common too. Because we do enjoy it. We do enjoy that. Helping somebody else.
I sold Fultron, and a lot of people may or may not know, Fultron was owned by the Arthur Fulmer Company, which also did office furniture and bowling balls. And Fultron morphed into and became what you all know and love today as Memphis Audio.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Would you look at that? That's
when you got the old guy in the room, that's what you get.
Man, you're showing me my age. I know nothing. Memphis Audio, not bad.
Forget that I know that they're Memphis Audio. I'm more impressed that I knew that they also made office furniture and bowling balls.
Oh, I mean, you got to start somewhere. Some people start off selling vapes, You never know.
You never know.
I can't. Let's do the winners, and then if they want to stick around, they can for a few more minutes, and then we got to keep it under 2 hours. I mean, Kicker on Mass, I think they usually cut off at 9:30, right?
I'm at your disposal, Andy. You know me. You just say when and it's over. I'm having a really good time. I'm enjoying it.
We do have an after party after this. Maybe you could join us for that. Maybe I don't know. There's always that.
If it's the after party that you kind of alluded to me,
yes,
I'll have to admit I'm a technology guy. I mean, we were talking before the show. I do build my own computers from scratch. I load them, do the hardware, do the software. I'm a software guy. I'm a hardware guy. I am a technically inclined guy. But I'll be darned if I can figure that program out.
But you just got to look at it, Kip. That's all you got to do. Yeah,
I looked at it a lot. I looked at it a whole lot, and I didn't get it.
Oh, look at that.
That's all you got to do. Man.
And I had to bring up Blaupunk, because a lot of people may or may not know Blaupunk is actually German for...
Ooh, don't know.
Blue Dot.
Blue Dot. Wow, they really thought about that one and ran with it.
That's Blaupunk means blue dot.
Boss Blue Dot, yes.
Oh, Bubba, hey, yeah.
Thank you, Bubba. Boom, good. Here these guys go. Now they're going to get going. Thank you, Bubba. As rain has been called for, I submit the following. Thank you, Kip, for coming on tonight. It was truly awesome that you are back on the airways. We look forward to seeing you more often, man. And I'm just happy you're here tonight, break the ice, polar bear, one way or another. Thank you, Bubba. Appreciate you. And whatever the universe provides us, we'll be happy with, man. 100%. And Colorblind, thank you as well for a $20 super chat. We got to throw that one on there. You'll like the $20 super chat, I'm telling you.
I don't care what you say about kickers. This guy is a difference maker.
I know you watch the show a lot, but first person, it's cool. Thank you, Colorblind, again for another $20 super chat. You guys are awesome. Let's do these giveaways. Kip, I'm going to give you the honor to read them out. Oh, Double E, come on, man. He's trying to make me look at it.
Would you look at that? Oh my gosh, just look at it. Just look at it. You got to look at it this way, okay? You just got to look at it. That's all you can do anymore.
Thank you, Double E. Appreciate you, man. And the memberships are awesome. If you're on YouTube, you see all the fancy emojis. You get to be part of the green team. The whole.
I guess I'm gonna have to join your channel. Yeah. I mean, I'm subscribed. I guess I'm gonna have to join your channel. I feel left out now.
It's only 99 cents a month to be on the green team, and you might even get a. That's it. That is it. We got like 140 members too, which is pretty crazy. It's really crazy.
So, if I had any control over the drawing, I would put you in, David, just because I just saw that. But literally, it's done by the. It's an official drawing system. It's done down at the legal offices of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, and I have no control over the outcome of this.
I think the only one who would catch us is Bill, but we might be able to slip through this week. I don't know. We'll try.
Might.
Let's do it. Third place, you get the Kicker EB 400s, the whole Kicker swag pack. You know the deal. All right, get ready, Kip. Boom.
I'm ready. So we got third place winner is Greg Y from Midland, Texas. Greg, you got the third place package tonight. I sincerely want to thank you for tuning in to Livin Loud with Andy. There are some standout guys in the 12-volt community who go above and beyond to create content for all of you, and this guy's one of them. I'm just really honored to be here on the show with him. It's definitely a blessing to me. And thank you for tuning into his show. I sincerely mean that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kip, and thank you guys for watching, man. This has been truly an awesome show. Really has, and that means so much, Kip. Like I'm terrible at receiving compliments, but I'm getting a little better coming from you. It means so much, and you're an awesome friend. Thank you so much.
I get allergies.
All you do. that's
I get allergies.
Yeah, that's what it might be from.
It's Oklahoma, and I get allergies.
My allergies weren't too bad when I was down there. Maybe it's just they're worse up here. I don't know.
They're worse right here in my neighborhood. You got to check it out sometime. So second place winner, TW1 headphones, the koozies, and what else you get?
Koozie, t-shirt, unmasked, the whole swag pack.
Man.
They're giving out lanyards. Sandy's going
swag
crazy down
pack.
there.
Be sure you ask for a schmedium, and that's going to be Jeremy B from Salem, South Dakota. Jeremy, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks for watching Livin Loud with Andy. Again, can't say thank you enough to everyone, not just the winners tonight, but man, I'm humbled and honored to be here, and I appreciate spending time with you guys. So second place winner, Jeremy B. Enjoy those when you get them. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being part of the Kicker family.
I think he's won before. It is definitely rigged. So, yeah. I know Cornut's won like 3 times, and so does El Fuego. It is rigged. That's why they say it,
It's only slightly rigged.
Slightly rigged, like slightly regulated kicker amplifiers. Kip, come on now. Come on.
Being slightly pregnant. Only slightly pregnant.
I can't. First place, Bullfrog 100. Donald
BF 100. Go for it.
Donald Logan. That's Donald Logan. That's a guy. He tunes in all the time.
Oneonta?
Onianto, Alabama.
Onianta? I'm going to butcher that.
Logan. He's the only Donald Logan.
I can get Alabama right.
Yes. And Kip, we do have one more prize. Talked about it before.
Oh.
It's a fourth place. Bill puts it as 4th place. I think it's an extra first place for 50% off anything at kicker.com, which...
So you're saying it's like the 4th meal at Taco Bell at midnight?
Oh, you know what? Now if you look at it that way, it sounds so much better.
I just took what you thought was not so good, and I made it better.
Love it. Thank you. The fourth meal. You know what?
It's
I'm
the
always
fourth
eating
meal.
that fourth meal at 3 a.m. 4 a.m.'s pushing it.
So who gets the fourth meal tonight? You say it's 50% off?
50% off anything at kicker.com.
Well, that makes sense now why you're asking when products on stick, because obviously you guys are wanting to get stuff that's not in stock. So
Yeah.
Is there an expiration on that 50% off? I would assume there's not.
From what Ernie said, there is no expiration, and even if there was, they'll just throw you another one if you never used the first one. But non-transferable. It's only for you.
This is not for you.
Yes. I wouldn't give one of those away anyway. I know one of our watchers actually did give it away, though. He's like, I don't want to give it to someone else. And we gave it away on a Livin Loud with Andy Day. That might be this Friday. I don't know. More so, I want to give back to these guys, if anything. But yeah, he actually gave it out as a Livin Loud with Andy prize. Like,
I just saw this.
That's a golden ticket. That's a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's.
Well, I see some of these guys, they're throwing up some of these old school names and stuff. I just, Nakamichi, Dragon, anyone? Dragon?
Yeah. That's it. So first place, you can read this one, Kip.
I got it.
50% off discount code.
50 off. It's going to be Chris R. from Omaha, Nebraska. Congratulations, Chris. You are tonight's winner of the 50% off discount code.
Omaha. How about that?
So you need to reach out to Bill Frog. You need to give him your information, and you need to get your discount. Man, that's a good deal, 50% off. That's huge. That's huge.
It really is, and it goes for everything. The Schmedium t-shirts up to the Solo X's that are on there. So maybe one day on a Warhorse, I don't know. But still, I'm surprised the Solo X is on there for that. And pay 50% off on any of your build, you can get twice as much, or just pay half as much, and that's awesome that they do that for this channel. And you'll actually be getting an email from me. Everything else, you'll be getting an email from Bill for the first, second, third, Bullfrog, EBs, the TW1s, everything. That's from Mr. Bill Frog. I don't have a 50% off yet either, Kip. I think he's saving it.
I see you, Jeff. I see you.
Thanks for tuning in, Jeff Wallace. Appreciate you. Let's see. Congratulations. Well, if he already sent the money, is it too late to decline? I think it's too late to transfer that back. Maybe we'll put it in the pile for next week. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, David. Sorry, I didn't see it in time. Come on down to Oklahoma. You can sit around the fire pit with me. We'll grill some hot dogs and enjoy a little bit of time outside. So
that's way
maybe
better.
I don't know.
50% off discount code. Trust me. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Kip.
Hey,
if you have anything else
pleasure.
before we bounce out, and then we still have a caboose at the end, so you don't have to disappear right away. We do have a caboose.
Here's what I'm going to say.
About it.
I do know about it, so I'm going to hang out until the caboose is finally done. But what I have to say is, first off, to you, Andy, sincerely thank you for inviting me onto the show tonight. It was a true honor to come on. It's nice to not have the pressure of being the engineer, sitting here at home just enjoying some cold coffee and hanging out with you guys. I do see a lot of the comments from a lot of you, and even though you may not hear from me a lot, I do lurk in the background and I see it, and you touch my heart, and I mean that. So thank you. Thank you for treating me like family tonight. I appreciate all the questions, appreciate all the fun, and I do look forward to spending some more time with y'all in the future at some point. So I mean it as sincerely as it sounds. I sincerely appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Absolutely. And thank you again for the 100th time for joining me here, and we had an awesome show, and I won't look back on it twice. And hey, we'll see what the future brings us. And man, thank you guys for watching. And Kip from Kicker. How about that? Kicking it with Kip. Let's see. That was an amazing show. It truly was. And thank you for all that you do, your kind words. 45 anniversary. You guys are on 51 now, and some change.
51 now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Coming up.
Here we go.
And Steve still comes into work every day. It's what he loves to do.
You guys call that a job, but I wouldn't qualify it as one. I'd have too much fun there. I have fun doing this. This isn't a job, but it has job-like parts to it, but it's not.
I am truly blessed to be able to work for a company that most days do not feel like work. I truly enjoy what I get to do, and even though I'm Kip and I'm, you know, an older guy and everything, I still enjoy getting into a car. I mean, it's funny. For me, the line in the sand is at 150. I don't need a daily driver that's louder than 150.
No.
A buck 45 does me just fine. As long as I got that bass, I can feel it, and it's punching, and it's doing that, and it's clean. I'm definitely what you call an SQL guy. I like it to sound.
You need both.
Good.
You need to hear my
both.
Cookie Monster. I'm telling you now. It's been so long. When you heard it the first time, that was the primal days. It's just, it is windy, but I've been twisting it and tuning it to make it more of a, I guess, as people would say, an SQL setup, you know, but it still doesn't make you go deaf, and it sounds good.
Your setup in your lovely bride's car with that 12
Yes.
amazes me in every video I've seen on that. I'm blown away with what that single driver does in there.
It's stupid.
And
It's
you know,
stupid.
I'm looking forward to the day, and I don't know if I have to wink for this because it's kind of, the cat's kind of been let out of the bag, but I'm looking forward to the day when we get to see a SoloX 18 replace the one in your car.
Don't tease me like that, Kip. I've been waiting all 11 years. I've been waiting, and yes, that will be the day. I can't wait to retire. I think it's going to be the last time you see the old school SoloX 18 at Slamology and Cookie, and to have something with the potential what the L7X, the new one, does, as you've seen, it's night and day. I get out of that Kayla's car, and I'm like, that's a 12? That's a 12? What is the 18 going to do? I'm going to need 4 Warhorses, you know? It's insane.
I just want, and before you put the comment away, I just want to reach out. Man, it is wonderful to see and hear from you, Derek. I watch your stuff all the time. I'm lurking there in the background, watch your videos. You're another one of those that there's a top of the tier group that does all this content for 12-volt guys who, like, everyone tuning in tonight loves it, and you're one of those creators, and I put you in that same tier. And I know Andy appreciates you tuning in, and I'm just glad to see you, and I look forward to seeing you sometime again soon. Breaking bread, brother. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. I know I let Rob and Derek know ahead of time just in case, because I know, you know, you guys have a connection, and we all kind of do. Everybody that watches, tunes in, they're so happy to see you here tonight, Kip, and it's been a blessing. That's what I want to say. It's been a blessing.
Well, I don't want to leave anyone out, but, you know, obviously Robert's in here, and Robert, you're also same thing. You're in that top tier guys that are just consistently putting out great content for people to watch. And the thing, I look at what Andy does and what you guys do. I look at it through two lenses. One, I look at it through the lens of a hobbyist, because I did get into car audio as a hobby, and I like the honest, forward presentations that you guys do. You call out the good, you call out the bad, and then you just let the cards lie there on the table, and people can make an honest decision about what's good for them. And I appreciate you for that. The other lens I look at it through is from a kicker employee lens who works in a marketing department and is trying to promote our brand. And what I've always respected, and I know we've always had these conversations, is don't pull any punches. Call it what it is. And it makes us a better company to get those kind of honest reviews. And I'm not trying to fish for anything here, but I know you could ask Robert, you could ask Derek, we could ask you. We don't make you guys sign an NDA on that. We don't ask you to let us see the review first before you post it. It's truly what you guys think of the product. And so as a hobbyist, I appreciate the fun, creative approach to getting honest reviews. And as a manufacturer, I appreciate the feedback that maybe sometimes it does bruise the ego a little bit, but we need to hear those things. So,
you know, and just like you said, you never learn anything until you mess up. And that's just like how, you know, negative, positive criticism, whichever way you want to look at it, you know, and you kind of need it. Otherwise, you don't want to not listen to the people buying the amplifiers or promoting the stuff, right? And we
trust me, the clip light hasn't gone unheard in my ears. I'm going to...
It's ricocheting down, and Steve's like, "What is that noise?" All I hear is clip light. What the heck is going on here? You know.
Hey, colorblind. I see your comment there. See you, man. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, they're dropping like flies, but we could do this for 4 hours, way more than 90 minutes. Thank you, Kip. We got an intro, outro for these guys too. If you guys didn't see it in the beginning, for Mr. Kip and his just, you know, kicker little run around history video. It's awesome. And babe, I love that you're tuning in. Love you so much. And it's weird seeing your name, Kayla McGill. I'm getting used to it. And Kip, again, thank you for being here. And this was Kicking with Andy, Kicking It with Kip. Let's see from Kicker. And everyone have an awesome week. And as always, stay living loud. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. I like to keep the show to about 90 minutes. Kippo-licious. Be sure you get that schmedium every Tuesday night. Full tilt boogie. Kippo-licious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium. Twisted Tea. Hippopotamus. Cold beverage. Schmedium. Midler. Out in BFE. Out in BFE. At the end of the day, full. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Full tilt boogie. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick.
That's a good idea,
Welcome
Ashy.
to Kicker Unmasked
I like
Live Weekly. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. I like to keep the show to about 90 minutes. Kippo-licious. Be sure you get that schmedium every Tuesday night. Full tilt boogie. Kippo-licious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium.
Would you look at that?
Would you look at that? A full 90-minute show. Sure
Full.
thing.
Hey, you're not buying a family-sized bag of chips at Walmart that's 80% air here, fellas. You get the whole bag full.
The whole shebang. Thank you,
All of it.
Cornut. He's secret. Look, this is how Cornut wins. He donates through Streamlabs. Cornut already donated $4, and I don't see anybody else dropping below. That's it. He said it's there. He said, would you look at it? Love you guys. And looks like Cornut's taking this one. And we're out of here. See you guys.